It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, 6 p.m. This Board of Commissioners regular meeting is called to order. Will you please join Commissioner Hodges in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance?
Good group. Our Father in heaven, we ask your attendance at this deliberation of the City Council this evening. As it seeks to do thy will, it will do thy will in consideration of the issues before them. Bless the members of this assembly, the citizens that are present at this meeting, and all the residents of the city of Madeira Beach. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your eyesight. Amen.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Douther.
Present.
Next is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything on the agenda they'd like to pull?
Mayor, if I may, remove 8C from the consent agenda. I think we had some discussion on that, and what's in here is a little different than what we agreed.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the consent agenda, but we can do that now.
I didn't want to miss my chance.
Okay, yeah, because I had that on there to pull also.
Okay.
On the regular agenda. Okay, we're all set then. Next is proclamations and presentations. I don't think we have any proclamations tonight.
No.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges.
Yes.
Commissioner Douther.
Yes.
Commissioner Price.
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes. Next is proclamations and presentations. There are no proclamations tonight. We have a presentation. The first one is from Treasure Island, Madeira Beach, Chamber of Commerce, the new president introduction. Missy Hahn, would you like to come up, please?
Sounds like it's on. Okay, I'll let you all see my smile. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, City staff. I come tonight to thank you for working with me for the last 5.5 years. It has really been my joy to meet all of you and work with you and all the work that you do in Madeira Beach. And I'd like to introduce you to the Chamber's new president and have him say a welcome hello to you, Mr. Barry Rubin.
Hi, everyone. I look forward to
Hey, Barry.
interesting introduction, as I know most of you for a very, very long time. So it's going to be a pleasure working with you, Mayor. I look forward to working with you, Vice Mayor and the Commission, and Bob as well, obviously. And we're just looking forward to it. We're going to have a very successful time together. So thank you all for your support so far and in the future.
Thank you very much, Barry. Next is a big one, Firefighter of the Year. Fire Chief Belk, would you like to do the honors on this, please, sir?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time again this evening to recognize one of our own. The recommendation of Firefighter of the Year comes from within the members of the department. Every firefighter makes a recommendation. They're all taken into consideration. Essentially, who gets the most votes wins. This year's winner began his career with Madeira Beach in 2012. We were actually hired together, so you knew this department was going to do great things. In 2014, he was named HCA Hospital's EMS All-Star, and he was promoted to lieutenant in the same year. Since his promotion, he has undertaken many responsibilities to include training officer, operations officer, starting the peer fitness coordination program, overseeing the water rescue program, and most recently, he is the union representative for Madeira Beach and for Treasure Island Fire Departments. I have complete faith in him as a leader. He always leads by example, and I know he has our backs no matter the situation. He loves his job, and it shows. Those are just some of the many statements made on the nomination form for him. Lieutenant Childers' compelling dedication to Madeira Beach Fire Department and continued aspiration for personal and professional growth has been nothing short of a positive impact for this department and this community. He is who any firefighter, regardless of department, should strive to be, and it is with great pleasure that I announce, for the second time in his career, Lieutenant Andy Childers as Madeira Beach Fire Department's 2021 Firefighter of the Year. Congratulations. Thank you guys again for a few minutes of your time.
Thank you, Chief Pelt. Next is public comment. This is for anything that does not have to do with things that are on the agenda tonight. If you have comments, please walk up to the podium, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Preston?
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive, Madeira Beach. Mayor and Commissioners, it's not often I write things down. I would like to discuss the sign ordinance in the new restaurant, Caddy's, on Gulf Boulevard. It is my understanding that Caddy's Restaurant will not be issued a certificate of occupancy from the city until the artwork with the name Caddy's is removed from the building. Even though this is the city's right by ordinance to mandate this, I believe it is wrong action to take at this time. The owners of this property have taken an empty lot with little tax revenue and added a structure with the value of multi-millions of dollars to the tax base of the city. And it will have more than 70 jobs in that building. Probably people that live here. The artwork on the sides of the structure brings color, life, and character to a normally dull drive down Gulf Boulevard with bland, rectangular condos for our view. There are two main items with this issue that I take exception to. One, the city does not appear to enforce the sign ordinance equally on all buildings throughout the community. Two, is the ordinance seems to be outdated and does not fit needs. I believe the city needs to revisit the sign ordinance and update it. But in the meantime, issue a temporary certificate of occupancy to Caddy's until the commission has time to review and change the ordinance as needed. If at that time it is the will of the commission to let the ordinance stand as is, then send a letter of non-compliance to the owners and have the artwork removed. And one last note, it seems that every time someone or an entity wants to develop a piece of property in this city, a select few of our population or the city government tries to stymie the projects and put roadblocks by self-inflicted ordinance to quash the development. For the city's part, they should be focusing most of their efforts on whether the structure is FEMA compliant, structurally sound, throughout the current building codes and are followed, and a safe for the occupants. I do not believe we should be managing artwork. I, for one, when I look at that building and I drive down the road, it brings a smile to my face. And I would like to see more art, more color in Madeira Beach, not less. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I hate agreeing with Bob this much, but he's spot on with this. This might be something I think we need to add to the workshop agenda, because a couple things that he said really rung home with me. Number one, the enforcement of the sign ordinance. It's correct. You can drive up and down Gulf Boulevard, and there are violations that have been there for decades. I mean, decades, that have never been ticketed, never been anything. So it's consistency. That's what we have to be. And I do believe our sign ordinances are antiquated. This isn't for Caddy's benefit that I'm even bringing this up. I think we have to really take a serious look at this, because if you go by that and you look at it, if this was a banner being hung, it would be okay, but the same artwork on the side of a building is not okay. I think we just have to sharpen our pencils and just tighten up that ordinance, and I certainly don't want that to be the reason that these guys can't get a liquor license and open up. Thank you.
City Clerk, will you add that to the next workshop, please?
And will you also use the clock for public comment? Not that he was over his whatever couple of minutes, but I have to say this every meeting. I don't know,
Bob just thought it accumulated from the time that he hadn't taken his entire 3 minutes before. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? Do we have any electronic comments on subjects that aren't on here?
Yes, we do. There we go. Sorry. The first one is from Joanne Kelly, 329 Boca Ciega Point Boulevard, St. Petersburg. It's in reference to the 9/11 Memorial. The 9/11 Memorial is sacred land since you have a piece of the Twin Towers. For Madeira Beach, white pickup trucks to be parked all over the grass when they could park across the street in the parking lot is disgraceful. Work is being done, but only the trucks actually needed for the job should be there. Where's the respect? The next one is from John Ryan, 14017 North Bay Shore. Please enforce the SM ruling for Kevin Farrell to install gutters on his home. 14011 North Bay Shore. 3+ years of building department BS, lies, 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 no action, you drop the fines, come on already. This ill-gotten home hangs over my land and rain hits my roof. Next is from Noor Hakeem of 13045 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach. Hello, I'm a business owner of bike rentals in Madeira Beach. Electric bikes are really different from electric scooters. E-bikes provide an assist to still bike while having little power to provide you an assist to exercise as well. Business rentals for bicycles and e-bikes have a limit of 18 years old to rent. We follow all the cycling rules and regulations and provide all our clients with safety gear and instructions. We also don't allow customers to dump bikes anywhere, e-bikes anywhere. All rentals have to be returned to our stores like other bicycle rentals. A lot of customers are bike riders who visit here and like to exercise but not strain their knees while having the biking experience. Neighboring cities like Indian Rocks and St. Pete allow e-bikes rentals with regulations, like no sidewalks or beach riding. All bikes and e-bikes should use bike lanes and follow all the rules of cycling as a regular bike. The electric scooter companies have no rules or regulations causing this harm and danger to our neighborhood, and they do have safety gear or age limits or even instructions given by the company on how to ride. They also allow dumping them everywhere. As a business owner, I really like to plead and appreciate if you can let our business continue, since e-bikes are a big source of income for us, like other rental businesses around. Please differentiate between e-bikes and electric scooters. Thank you. The last general comment is from Caitlin Boots, 13045 Gulf Boulevard. And it's again in reference to electric bike rentals. Hello, my name is Kate Boots. I own a bike shop in Madeira Beach. I'd like to thank you for reading my comment. As a bike rental business, I would like to say that electric bikes and electric scooters are really different. Electric bikes offer assistance to the cycling rider. All of the customers are cyclists who are looking to enjoy cycling without restraining their knees or body. All rentals receive safety gear lessons and instructions on how and where to use the bicycles, only in the bike lanes. We never rent to anyone under the age of 18. All of our bikes are picked up and dropped off at our shop and never dumped anywhere. E-bikes are really a sport vehicle that helps the rider get the exercise and cycling they want with some help. Our neighboring cities all have shops that offer e-bikes, and all of us have been working hard to make sure we follow all the safety rules for cycling. If you prohibit rentals that really affect our income and shuts us down, especially after the hardships we faced last year, so please do not punish us for others' mistakes. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Next is public hearings. First is public hearing to consider the request by Marcus Winters on behalf of SFMB Madeira Beach LLC for alcoholic beverage use. Director Portell.
Mayor, I need to get everyone sworn in. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding.
Okay.
So anybody that's going to speak on this particular agenda item, if you could stand up, raise your right hand to be sworn under oath. Anyone that's going to speak on this agenda item. You swear that the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. This petition is in regards to the alcohol permit for what is now known as Caddies. Started out as Golf Grill and has been permitted and regulated as Golf Grill before, if you're not familiar where Caddies came from. It is the Caddies development was subject to a development agreement that was from 2013. And they had recently brought in site plan in order to complete the project, and in accordance with that development agreement and the site plan criteria contained in it. They're at the point now that they are close to wanting to operate and do require an alcohol permit. In the development agreement, and I do have copies of it for you if you just are dying to read a development agreement, does include, I think that some communications we've had drew your attention to it. There's a section in here on page, I had it marked. It's section 18 under the recitals that do provide that alcohol uses are permitted in the restaurant as a use in accordance with code, but does require that they come through this hearing process separately for an alcoholic beverage permit, as is usually required. And so that's why we have this process going separately, and it does therefore require that you consider all of the conditions that you normally do related to alcohol permits, and that we create a record of your findings on all of those to verify that use. It allows you to either approve, deny, or approve with conditions. And what the staff recommendation is today, that you approve with conditions. And I want to go over that and explain it to you a little bit, specifically why there are conditions involved, and address all of those required findings, as usual. It'll be a little bit longer because unlike most of the alcoholic beverage permits that I bring in, I've never had such music behind me. That's incredible. It's powerful now. Unlike most of them, or actually all of them that I brought in up to this point, the alcoholic beverage establishments are usually in a commercial or a higher level mixed use district. This one happens to be on the beach, and so it's in an R3, and that's a tourist oriented, but it's considered a residential mixed use area. Because of that, there's obviously more sensitivities. You know, we have lower density residential allowed in that area, and just regular residential along with tourist type accommodations. And also, we tend not to have a lot of commercial, or to permit much commercial at this point in our plans along the beach because of just the sensitivity of the beach, the dunes, and of course the turtles that we're also concerned about, and then also because of the damages that come with just being on the beach. So in this case, what we did is went through all of those conditions. The first is that the extent to which the location and extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. And usually, as I said, we'd be in a commercial neighborhood, and this one, it's a mixed residential, a medium-density multifamily residential zoning district. And in that case, we can allow restaurants, and restaurants can have alcohol as long as it does not meet the measure of more than, you have to have food and other income derived up to 60%, so 40% for the alcoholic use. I'm sorry, I did that backwards. And it does allow the city to audit performance to make sure it's not turning into a strictly bar and that they are selling things other than alcoholic beverage establishments. In this case, they have agreed to do that. We have had an opportunity to be discussing with the petitioner and his attorney exactly how all of this meshes with their operation in this sensitive location to make sure they understand what their greater responsibilities are in this case than perhaps in a more urban and tighter situation. And I think that we came to an agreement on all of the conditions that I had in your packet. Because of that, just to make it clear to you, I have prepared a set of amended conditions, and I'll hand those out when we go through the conditions list. In this case, the development agreement does require that they have this hearing process, and there's a concern of the effect that alcohol use center on, in this case, the potential for additional noise, possible extension of service to the public beach area, and associated debris with people being outside. Some of their alcoholic service will be downstairs underneath the building on the landward side of the dunes, entirely on their space and undercover, but that is an outside activity, and there's more noise going to be coming from that. And you know, alcohol makes people a little more animated, so sometimes it's louder. That's usually recognized in any code as having some requirements or concern for the impact on neighboring properties. So in order to kind of mitigate some of the impact on that residential type, we are suggesting that, you know, music type, timing, volume has to be limited to meet the requirements that the city ensure compatibility between the land uses and types. The use can be expected to impact parking availability at Tom and Kitty Stewart Park. It was understood that people do have access to that park, that of course the neighbors will not have to pay for parking there. The city charges for parking, so patrons do have an opportunity to access those spaces, but the restaurant and bar activities share their own parking under the building and across the street. There are a total of 54 spaces available to them of various types, and they'll have a valet system to bring the cars in and out. But we have to be aware that they do have access to Tom and Kitty Stewart Park. However, The park access and the restrooms from the street will be restricted between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. per the development agreement, because it's stated specifically in the development agreement when Kitty Stewart Park would be open. City typically closes those off entirely, so how they manage traffic circulation after that point each evening will be up to the restaurant and their valet system. It's a very important issue for the city to manage. Also, the litter on the beach. Additional drink services turns around supplies a lot quicker, and especially if you're outside and you have disposable containers and things, it's going to potentially result in some additional litter on the beach. And this is not only a concern based just on quality of life locally. In our recent push to try to control litter, we do have new codes that address that did not subject businesses to as much management responsibility in the past. But the other issue with litter is that it draws predators to the turtles. So wherever there's a conglomeration or a collection of people, there's more garbage. And wherever there's more garbage, there are more predators. And predators account for at least 50% of all mortality for hatchlings every year. So this is a very critical issue for us. If we're concentrating people in a new location, we have to be aware that with them comes a lot of disruption to environmental systems. Also, there's more research going on all the time. They're now measuring the amount of noise and the type of sound that turtles are responding to. They tend to respond to low frequency sounds, which may be why, even though we were trying to control the lights everywhere, the turtles, instead of heading towards the sound of the waves in the ocean, are heading for the sounds of the waves of the cars. So, as you all know, being here, that sometimes we end up with hundreds of them out in the street and in the gutters. So there's a lot of research trying to figure out why that's happening, and that may be one of the reasons we have to keep an eye on. And then, of course, there's the light and just foot traffic. So it's going to be important for the restaurant bar, especially when people are more animated and are celebratory, that they're not tramping all over the dune system and not heading out in mass waves out onto the beach at night in particular. That can either discourage a turtle from nesting and turn them right around if they hear noise or hear footprints, or the eggs or the hatchlings get trampled. So those are things that we have to watch out for. There's a prohibition of glass containers already on the beach, and the strong littering code will be enforcing all of that, obviously. And the service of food and drink on the public beach and the city lands and adjacent parks and rights of way are already prohibited, and so these measures are contained in the conditions that I'll propose for you. They will ensure consistency with the code and just generally provide consistency with our environmental policies throughout as well. The extent to which traffic is generated as a result of the location of the proposed alcoholic beverage request will create congestion, or will it create congestion or present a safety hazard? And often when I get up here, I'm talking about a restaurant who's just expanding to add alcohol. It's not expected to generate a huge additional level of traffic. However, it does tend to extend the service hours a little bit over what a restaurant would normally have, and so that's something to be considered as we're concerned, especially during turtle season, and also because the restaurant and the outside activities are very closely adjacent to a residential use. And I know those residents have been very concerned all along about how much noise disruption they would be dealing with and how much additional traffic would be brought in. We've also talked about the importance of adhering to the conditions where they are not using food delivery services to bring food out directly to land right off their dune system right into the public beach or onto Kitty Stewart Park, because that would completely disrupt what we had determined was the probable traffic pattern and congestion in the area. So if you've got delivery people taking up all the Kitty Stewart parking lot spaces while they pick the food up from the restaurant and run it across the dunes to people just up on the public beach. Technically, the restaurant's not delivering food, but it's being delivered, and it's having even more impact because now people have to come in cars to just do the delivery work. It's a lot of extra trips. It's a lot of intensity to the use, which we would have to reevaluate. So we've been talking about that, and they've been amenable to going with the conditions that that is not the way they operate the restaurant or the bar. So whether, the next condition is whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the location for which it is proposed. This was pretty much anticipated. It was always expected that the restaurant would be serving alcohol, and so it was something that was addressed in the original development agreement and land use decisions. The location is in an area that's at least across the street from commercial, and there's a lot of bar activity up and down Gulf Boulevard. That's not unusual. It's just a matter of making sure it's compatible with our outdoor activities and conditions, the environmental system that we have with the turtles and other, and the sensitivity of the dunes, and then also the because adding alcohol can expand the hours of operation, and it's a little more animated and a little louder in interactions outside. We have to be concerned about the compatibility with the residential uses next door. So they can be made compatible with proper monitoring and management. That's the issue at hand here. We have hopefully conditions listed out there, and it may have been how they would have been operating anyway, but it's important that we put in writing what conditions we think are important for assuring that. The next condition that you need to consider is whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect public safety. Food and alcohol sold at this premise are only allowed to be served on site and in the restaurant facility. Food and alcohol are not allowed to be served on the public beach. No chairs and tables are allowed to be on the public beach. That would be operating a business off-site and outside of the building, which are violations of the code. And also, if we establish a certain number of chairs that are being served to and tables, then we have to also recalculate everything: traffic, parking, restroom capacity, all of that. So that is addressed in the conditions below. And then finally, that no application for review is due, or the city is due any charges, fees, interest, fines, or penalties owed by the applicant, and there are none on the record. Earlier people mentioned the sign. That's a completely separate issue, and I'm only mentioning it to say we won't be talking about it because it's not been advertised, and it's a whole different section. There's no penalties and no fines assessed on any of that at this time. So the staff recommends conditions as amended. You had some in your packet, but I have some here amended for you.
Mayor, if I may, once Linda is done, I'm going to want a 5 or 10 minute recess to read this. I mean, I was relying on what was in our packet. Once again, we get new documents the night of, 5 minutes before we're supposed to vote on this. So when Linda's done, can I get 10 minutes to read through this and compare it to the notes I've already made?
Yes.
Okay, we need to complete the quasi-judicial hearing before we take the recess.
Okay.
All right.
And there is one thing I would like to add to this, Director Portell, and that is there are residences on each side, and I don't think it's asking too much to have a privacy fence put up in between Caddy's and the building to the north and the building to the south, on the south side of Tom and Kitty Stewart Park. Simply as a noise buffer, I know if I were out at that swimming pool, which is right beside them, I would want that buffer. And I know this is an addition that hasn't been discussed before, but that's something personally I would like to see added on there. I don't know if that can be asked at this late date.
Yes, I mean.
We need to let her complete her testimony.
Okay.
We need to go through the process before we start commenting on the testimony. You haven't heard all of it yet. So, she was just gonna go through the conditions, and then I'll lead you through the next step.
Thank you. The, condition 1, alcohol services allowed only on site and in conjunction with restaurant, and an annual audit will be submitted to the city for review to show 60% of revenue from the restaurant bar operation is derived from the sale of food and other non-alcoholic items, in keeping with code language section 110.527, classifications restaurants. That's the standard code that we use to regulate that activity. The reason I'm suggesting it be put in here specifically is because this is subject to a development agreement, which was adopted in 2013 and may not consider, or did not consider, a lot of the things that you've recently upgraded, including litter and other compatibility issues and the sea turtles and lighting and things of that nature. So in this case, this condition just deals with that 60% ratio. Number 2, the restaurant and associated activity will be located on existing impervious surface within the approved site plan area inside the coastal construction control line and will not impact the surrounding dunes or beach. We've talked about how important that is, and the petitioner was agreeable to that. Lighting, number 3, lighting meets ordinance requirements for sea turtle conservation. Again, that has been amended recently. We want to make sure that as it's improved and amended, that the business, like every other business in town, keeps up with those requirements and regulations. The number 4, the property will be designed and operated in keeping with all noise, lighting, and sea turtle protection regulations as updated. Number 5, both on-site and off-site litter resulting from operation of the commercial use of the property must be managed by the restaurant in a manner consistent with city requirements. Number 6, structures outside the enclosed building must be approved for FEMA standards in accordance with floodplain management ordinance. Portable features must be site plan approved with emergency management protocol for removal in the event of a flooding event. They do have outside activities that are required to have a hurricane management plan and be moved up if they're not built in and affixed. Number 7, no amplified sound is allowed between the hours of 9 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 11 p.m. to 7:30 on Friday, Saturday, and on the evening before a national holiday. And all city codes must be respected regarding noise and other nuisance activities. This is in keeping not only with the development agreement, but also with the updated noise ordinances that we've worked on over time. Number 8, mobile or off-site vending to include the delivery of food and beverages to public land or right-of-way, including to Tom and Kitty Stewart Park, is not permitted. And again, that was to avoid the service and delivery organizations to come in and out of parks and onto public land, which we do not allow for any business unless it's for food, for any business. No, number 9, no chairs or tables supplied or contracted for supply by the applicant will be placed on the beach. We do have places that do permit chairs, but the beach area that they place the chairs on or have a franchise service is on their own property. Some property owners have extended their property lines by working with the state for that purpose, but areas where it's state beach or city property, those chairs are not permitted outside of the franchise contract that the city has. Number 10, the parking area located east of Gulf Boulevard is for parking only. No other activities will be conducted on that portion of the site. That is the extra parking lot that's used just for valet service across the street. Number 11, all fees and fines associated with the building and development process must be paid as a condition of the issuance of this approval, and that's a standard condition. So what the staff is recommending is that we find this consistent, and that we recommend approval with the conditions that are listed here. And I believe that they were suggesting too that where number 9, where I had mentioned beach will be placed on the beach, they had asked that we reference that as the public beach, which is consistent with other policies or conditions listed there. The reason this is coming to you late, all the way to the point of the meeting, is that we wanted to work with the petitioner. We always try to work with the property owner as much as possible to make sure that they fully understand what those conditions are and they have some comment, and if we can work things out to make them consistent with the plan ahead of time, that we do that. So you know how that goes. Sometimes it goes back and forth for quite a while. But we didn't want to come in without some sort of an agreement if that was a possibility. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the time where the commission would ask questions of Linda, and if you don't have any questions, then we'll move on to the next witness.
Okay. Director Portell, I would like to see privacy fence put up between the property and the adjacent properties for noise and for the privacy of the residents and the other properties. Is that something you feel is unreasonable? I'll go with your thoughts on that.
No, I don't think that's unreasonable. Again, it's tied to the increased impact that comes with alcohol, just the noise and people wandering around and being a little more celebratory than they are when they're having dinner. Making sure that they understand what the property boundary is.
Right, and I say that, again, as I mentioned earlier, you have people out by the pool, and I think that would be part of just being a good neighbor when that facility is going into a residential area.
Yes, sir.
May I ask the owner if that's acceptable to him?
We're going to have the owner come back up in a minute.
Okay.
And so you have the opportunity to ask questions at that point after they make their presentation. But any questions of Linda before she steps down?
That's it for me.
Okay.
Looks good, Linda.
Excuse me, Linda, I had a question. All these articles that you mentioned in this story here, has all this already been approved by the owner? I mean, is he aware of all the...
Yes. They have seen and made input to it.
Okay. And then this new brochure that you've given us, are they aware of the new brochure?
Yes.
The changes that
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I do have a couple of questions, too. I couldn't help but go back and look at all the other alcohol licenses that we've approved. And we've approved quite a few up here with no conditions whatsoever, right? I mean, one of them, like Lucky Lizard Tap House, there was one condition.
Right.
And it's nothing to do with litter, nothing to do with a lot of these things. And I understand that this is a restaurant on the beach and we're protecting the dunes and the turtles and the neighbors. But is this something we're going to see in the future with every liquor license or every alcohol license come up, that we're going to have a list of now 12 conditions for everybody?
I doubt that. We have very few applications. This is the first I've seen since we got here that it's on the beach. And we have to go through this review because we have to I have to sign off that everything in the application meets our zoning requirements and is compatible before we send it up to the state for review. Everyone that we've ever had before has been in a commercial area, basically right next to other commercial businesses, surrounded by other alcohol uses or with high traffic. Quite often, because the city is basically built out, I mean, we can redevelopment, but it's raw land isn't, there's no raw land in most places, especially not commercial areas, that we don't get. What we get is people asking for alcohol permits in places that have already had alcohol. And so when I'm answering questions about how it's going to change traffic pattern, how it's going to change compatibility, it's not. It's the same as it was before. and some are very long-standing buildings as well. This is an unusual situation, and in planning terms, we have to address the compatibility and the land use issues.
I understand that, but it's just concerning to me when we have the Lucky Lizard, which is right across the street from multiple people's homes, right? Those condos are homes, open till 2 a.m. in the morning. And the only condition is that they get their certificate of occupancy.
Yes, and this...
You know, I mean, I just want to make sure we're being fair to every application that comes in. Because when I read this, I got the sense that we were really piling on to caddies. That was my first sense. The only closest thing I found was the Schooner Hotel. It had 7 conditions, and those conditions are very similar to the first 7 here. And that owner came up and said, hey, we agree with all of them, so there was a big deal about it. But I don't know. I just was a little concerned with why this was so many more conditions than I've seen than any other application.
Yes, it's entirely different than any other I've ever seen and reviewed since I've been here.
You know?
That's all.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, thanks, Tom. Mr. Mayor, if you may, I think we'll all agree, you know, consistency is probably a good cornerstone for good government, right? I mean, I'm going to piggyback off of what Commissioner Price just said. I'm not sure we have to be fair with everybody, but being consistent makes us look a lot better and keeps us kind of straight. So I don't know if you guys read, we got an email, I hate to turn away from you guys, but we got an email this week from somebody talking about electric bikes. It was from a Mr. or Mrs. Smith. I don't remember exactly because it was signed Smith. But at the end of it, it told us we should be named, let me quote this so I get it right, the city of unenforced ordinances. You know, I know it was a wisecrack, but it does make you think a little bit. And then I started reading some of these and thinking, okay, well, how are we going to go about doing this? And this wasn't a knock on them, Linda. I'm just kind of looking at them going, okay, well, who's going to jump out here and do this? The first one's a perfect example. I know this is section 110-527. Have we ever done this with any other business in town? Have we ever looked for a 60% revenue versus 40%? Has anybody ever?
Yes, every restaurant.
But we've done it with them, they turn it in every year, and we have somebody that goes through them?
No.
Okay, so again, there's kind of where I'm going with it. And like I said, I'm just trying to point some things out, so maybe we can shorten this list. 2 and 3 are fine, obviously the turtles, and, you know, we want to be happy there. 4, I'm really glad you changed, because I think it was written poorly the first time through. 5, I think we have to define this a little better. On-site and off-site litter is great. These guys are pros. They own 8, 10 restaurants. I'm sure they're going to take care of that, but I get it. But what is the perimeter that they are responsible for the litter for? Because am I, as a 7-Eleven owner, responsible for a 7-Eleven a cup in the middle of town because somebody leaves my store and drops it? What is the perimeter of what we're looking for? 6, I'm fine with.
This really is the time period to ask questions. The case has not been presented in its entirety. You have not heard the evidence of any person, so you should not be making comments as to which ones are acceptable or not before you've heard all of the evidence.
My apologies, Tom. This is my first one. I'm sorry.
Okay, I would just caution you, let's just wait. This is the time to ask questions. Let the applicant present and hear from the public who wants to testify too before you come to a conclusion as to which conditions are acceptable if you are going to approve this application. So I would just...
Thank you for clearing that up. I was not under that impression. Okay. Sorry, Linda. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. So, Linda, did you want to submit into evidence your staff report, the memo that was issued today, and the development agreement? Is that what you wanted to?
Yes, I do have the development agreement, and I do want all that submitted as I presented to the clerk.
City clerk. If there are no other questions, we can go ahead and let the applicant make a presentation, Mayor. So the applicant and his attorney are here. Sir, if you want to just step forward, state your name, and make your presentation.
Attorney Trask.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Douthat, did you have questions? I apologize.
No, I just need a copy of those addendums that, in the portal, because I was not given a copy of that or sent a copy of that. So I need a copy of that for my records, please.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
those were provided before the meeting. I think that the deputy clerk provided them earlier online.
Okay. So do you have questions then of the director? Did you say? Absolutely. Okay. So you can stand down, Linda, and let Mr. Unks make a presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Attorney, City Manager, Director Portal. My name is Brian Unks. I'm a land use attorney for the petitioner, SFMB Madeira Beach, LLC. Our office is at 625 Court Street in Clearwater. First, I want to thank you. I know that you all have worked very hard on this issue, and there was a special meeting set, and that was delayed after some legal review by myself and Mr. Trask, and it was appropriate to delay that because you can't approve alcohol licenses at special meetings, and we learned that. So that's a good thing, and I appreciate you all giving us that extra time. It also allowed us to work with the city attorney and also Director Portal, and we did have input on those 11 conditions. And what I'm here to say is that we are willing to live with those if you feel they're necessary. And we don't want to be in an adverse position with the staff. We understand that this has been a long process. We understand there have been some changes. And whatever conditions consistent with what Director Portal handed you with the amendment to number 9, adding the word public before beach on number 9, we're willing to live with those if you determine that they are necessary. I do want to just go back through and go through the history just a little bit. This property is highly regulated and highly and specifically controlled by the city through this development agreement that was entered into in 2013. This development agreement in and of itself has 22 conditions of approval, general conditions of approval, has 7 conditions of approval related to the site plan, and has 7 conditions of approval related to public infrastructure. My client purchased the property in 2017 subject to the development agreement and has lived up to the terms and conditions of the development agreement and has never asked for an amendment or a waiver from the terms and conditions of the development agreement. My clients invested $6 million in developing this property. They're going to employ between 70 and 100 employees. And they've invested specifically $600,000 directly benefiting the city and the community through 19 additional parking spaces that are metered parking spaces for the city in Kitty Stewart Park that will generate approximately $75,000 per year in revenue to the city, improving public infrastructure and utilities that are benefiting the entire community, and contributing to the development of restrooms and also ADA spaces in Kitty Stewart Park. So that's a $600,000 direct investment that's already mandated in the development agreement. And so I think that what we're here to say is that my client is a very, very good community partner. They have been operating the Caddies in Treasure Island since 2015. So if you think of Caddies, I want you to think of Caddies from 2015 to now, okay? If there was any preconceived notions of Caddies prior to that, that wasn't my client, and that's not the person that's here before you. That's not the person that's invested in your city. I also want to say that between the last meeting that was continued in this meeting, we had an opportunity to have a Zoom meeting with about 30 residents, with Mr. Rubin facilitated from the chamber, with Mr. Winters and about 30 residents, and we spent the time to specifically go through all of their concerns, their questions, and we answered a lot of those. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of those questions and concerns and a lot of the concerns that have been raised by the staff are already addressed in the development agreement and or are already addressed in your code. But having said that, we're not here to argue over the additional conditions. We're here to say we're willing to live with those as amended and as revised and as just provided to you if you deem them necessary. Mr. Mayor, as it relates to specifically to the 12th proposed condition, the privacy fence doesn't sound unreasonable, off the top, but there's somewhat of a complication. So the development agreement, one of the things the development agreement gives you is a site plan that the applicant has to live up to. When I say that you specifically control the development and use of this property, you do through the contract. So my client built the property already. It's got site plan approval and has invested $6 million in building the property consistent to the approved site plan. And when you want to add a fence, my client's already invested about $50,000 in landscaping on the property line that is supposed to mitigate noise. So we will live with a fence if you think it's absolutely necessary. My concern is, as I stand here today, I can't tell you from an engineering perspective, from a civil engineering perspective, how that fence is going to interact with the landscaping that's already been installed, if there's going to be issues related to that. So if you want to add that, I would say to make it up to the staff if it's necessary, maybe give the staff some flexibility if there's site plan specific issues that make it impossible or impractical. But it's very difficult to negotiate over changes to a site plan in a setting like this. So I say that with respect and understanding that this is a complicated issue, but that may be something that we aren't 100% sure is going to be workable at this point. But we also don't want to delay it any further. So I would say a compromise would be, if you feel a privacy fence is necessary, leave it up to the staff to determine in their discretion, based on site plan review, whether they think it's feasible. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission for the attorney?
Thank you.
No, I don't think so. Other than, I do think, particularly on the north side, I think a privacy fence would really be helpful to the folks that live in that building, because their pool is right out there right beside your property.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So now, this would be the time for anybody from the public would like to come forward and make a presentation or a statement. And we can just start them one at a time, and you will be limited to 3 minutes. So anybody would like to speak? Yes, sir. Step forward. You can state your name.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive, Madeira Beach. There's been some comments about, am I allowed just to make a statement?
Anything you'd like, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About these requirements being different than other areas. If you look at the zoning map, it is zoned, the areas all around it are residential, totally different than the other areas that have bars and restaurants and stuff like that, where they're more commercial. So all these areas are residential, so it is different. And I think that it is appropriate in this case to have a differing or requirements, different requirements than the others, just because of that. And in doing so, it respects their neighbors. They've agreed to that, so I think it's the right way to go. And hopefully everybody will be happy in a year's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, anyone else would like to speak? Yes, sir. If you could come forward, state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening again. Barry Rubin, Treasure Island, Madeira Beach, Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to congratulate Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilor, on the asset that you have coming with Caddies. They are a civic partner beyond reproach in Treasure Island. They've been a great community partner of the Chamber for many, many years. I know the applicant very, very well. He serves on our board, and he is an absolute gentleman and a man of his word. If he says he will live to these conditions, he will certainly, I can sure as I'm standing here, will live to these conditions and then some. I said on our Zoom meeting with our 30-plus residents, the neighbors next door, that would be the cleanest swatch of beach in Madeira Beach, and I stand by that today. So I can't say strongly enough that I encourage you under every circumstance to approve this tonight, and I will see you all at Caddies. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? State your name, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Richard Harris. I live at 374 Bay Plaza, Treasure Island, Florida, down on Sunset Beach, and I have been a 35-year resident there. I'm also the former president of the Sunset Beach Community Association. Tonight, I'm here to speak on the behalf of the current owners of Caddy's on Treasure Island. They bought the property 6 years ago, and I've had a relationship with them for that 6 years, and they have been a good corporate neighbor, in my opinion, for the following reasons. Monthly, we have a beach cleanup. They sponsor the beach cleanup with a free breakfast, which a group of us go out and pick up cigarette butts. Second reason is they participated in the total renovation of the exterior of a house on 85th Avenue, which is owned by a disabled elderly lady. They repainted it. They built a new deck, new landscaping, total rehab of the building. It was a really nice thing to do. Yearly, they have a school supply collection every fall before school starts. Christmas time, Toys for Tots collection. Fortunately, they didn't have to do this very often, but they do have a collection of items for hurricane relief every time we need that. One of the things that was very important to Sunset Beach is their participation in ridding the beach of plastic straws. I would walk from my house up to the beach and walk along, pick up 3 dozen straws. The City of Treasure Island staff, as well as the Sunset Beach Community Association, approached Caddy's and a lot of the other bars and restaurants on Treasure Island and said, can we do something about these straws? And they voluntarily cut back on their use. Now I go out and pick up straws on the beach and pick up 2 or 3, not the usual 3 dozen. They've always been a good communicator with the Sunset Beach Community Association and the Bay Plaza Yacht Club. And if we ever needed anything or had a concern, we just talked to them. And they did work. Needless to say, they had some traffic circulation problems when they first bought the place. They worked with the Treasure Island Police Department to improve the traffic circulation in that area. It's a difficult situation than where the Caddies in Madeira Beach will be, because you're on a 4-lane road, whereas down there on Sunset Beach, we're only 2 lanes. I just wish you would support them in their efforts to operate their new restaurant in Madeira Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak today to the commission? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Jeff Beggins, live at 429 Boca Ciega Drive here in Madeira. I just want to speak on behalf of the applicant. I've just recently, in the last several months, got to know Mr. Winters. And what I love, you guys know my feelings, I love this town. I love the fact that local business cares, and Marcus lives right in Treasure Island. He owns 13 really successful businesses, a very good businessman, and I know his heart and his caring is in this building, and I really do believe he'll be a great steward, and I think if anything gets out of whack, he will be immediately responsive to fix it. So I'm looking forward to seeing this as a great addition to this town, something family friendly, and I can also vouch for the differences from the old Caddies to the new Caddies. I was at the old Caddies before, right? I think a lot of us have been back in the day. Totally different, very nice, very casual, family friendly. I'm looking forward to it. I got little kids. This is a family town for me, and I think it's going to be a great addition. So I just wanted to vouch for, I think it's going to be a great addition to this town. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Linda, do you have any summary or closing that you would make before Mr. Unks does? No? Brian, do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, again, we appreciate working with the staff. We appreciate working with you all to address the conditions that you feel are necessary, and we're willing to live with those conditions that Ms. Portal handed out as revised, particularly number 9 to say public beach, recognizing that if we do any portion of the beach that we could put chairs out there, but that we won't serve out there. So service will be limited to the restaurant. It won't be a concessions, so there won't be any take out to the beach. There may be take out to home, but not take out to the beach. And then the only other thing, again, Mr. Mayor, just to reiterate, I just don't know if we can commit to a number 12 because I haven't had it reviewed by a civil engineer, and I think it's kind of tough on that point. So if you do feel that's extremely important, I would ask to give the staff some flexibility from an engineering perspective to see if it's feasible. I just can't commit to that one right here, right now. So, thank you.
Real quick, one question. For number 9, you want the word public right before beach, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I believe Ms. Portal has agreed to that as well. Thank you.
Okay, so now we just, I kind of did a little bit of work. I didn't realize that we had some electronic communications or correspondence, so the city manager is going to read those. And then again, if I'm going to have to go back to Mr. Ungst and ask him if he has any other additional comments after we read these. I just realized we had some.
Thank you, Mr. Trask. We do have quite a few here. The first one is from Pamela and Michael Fournier, 14146 Gulf Boulevard 5C. We request that the liquor license request hearing for caddies be postponed until such time that the new operation of the restaurant and final design of the business can be assessed by staff. I think this particular one came in on for the 27th, so I think we've postponed it and we're here, so I'm not going to read the rest of the comment. The next one is Wesley and Nancy Nichols, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, Unit 2C. We own a condo at the Trillium at 14146 Gulf Boulevard. Please keep in mind the restaurant is located in a primarily residential area. We would like to request the hours of operation to end at 9 p.m. or earlier, to have no food or bar service on the beach area, and request no loud music that can be heard in the neighboring condos. Many of the condo rentals are to older people and to families with children, and we are concerned about the reaction to this beach bar if there is loud music and noise from the beach area, especially late at night. The next is from Antonia and Francesca Putillo, 14146 Gulf Boulevard. We're requesting that caddies' hours be restricted to 9 p.m. closing, and Madeira Beach is a family fun beach, and it is not necessary for the restaurant to open later than 9 or to have beach bar service. We're requesting that no outdoor music speakers be allowed and no loud music be played, especially so it doesn't carry over to the residential buildings. We love our family-friendly beach and would like everyone to continue to enjoy it without drunken distraction. The next is from Diane Mills, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, 1B. This is, I'm under the impression that the restaurant in Madeira Beach is going to be a high-end enterprise. Then I saw the gaudy building and name and realized that wasn't happening. It will be spring break every day. A quiet, pristine beach will be gone forever to be replaced with chaos and the smell of French fries. Hopefully this board will have some common sense applications so our life on the beach doesn't become a nightmare. I doubt anyone making these decisions lives in the adjacent condos. Anyone make a study about how a restaurant in this area will affect the rodent population. We've been owners in this building since 1988. Make good choices, Diane Mills. Next is from Robin Miller. Hi there, hope you're all well. I wanted to submit a communication to you and the commission that the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce fully supports Sun Pubs and Caddies and their request for their alcohol variants. If you or anyone on the commission has any questions, you can feel free to reach out to her. Next one is Carol Lyle, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, apartment 2A. Thank you for allowing input for the Caddies liquor application. Until this point, we've not expressed any objection in the restaurants to the restaurant's construction, and even though it will be amid properties where people live and sleep and relax, we respect the right of anyone to make money. However, we do have a few items for the board to consider. We hope that on-premise means the building itself and not to include the beach. There are dunes in front of the restaurant that cannot be removed. Tables would have to be placed in front of those dunes. Madeira Beach is pristine. Hundreds of people walk the beach every day. Tables would only detract. We hope music is played inside residences or on either side of the caddies, and peace and relative quiet should not be greatly impacted by a new neighbor. Already there is great potential that caddies will devalue the surrounding properties. Caddy's hours of operation vary. We hope that you'll consider a 9 p.m. closing for the reasons stated above. This is from Ruth and Tony DeLucio from Tritium Condos, 14146 Gulf Boulevard. As an owner of a condo resident at Trillium Condo for over 30 years, we were quite concerned about the impact of the establishment on our quality of life on the beach and property value. The restaurant is the only restaurant on the residential side. Gulf side of the beach from Archibald Park down to Johns Pass. Our pristine beach has been our greatest and most treasured asset. As owners, we are extremely concerned about the environmental impact this restaurant will have, as well as the impact on the safety of the residents close by. We appreciate the fact that concerns have been identified and outlined in the memorandum dated 1/11/2021. However, the question remains, who will enforce the regulations? Will there be signs posted that service cannot be provided on the beach? How can we assure that caddies will not put tables on the beach? Will there be a police presence at night patrolling the beach? Listing rules and regulations are helpful, but not addressing enforcement is negligent to the safety of both residents and the environment. It would be beneficial to nearby residents to understand how the restaurant owners are going to adhere to the regulations specified in the memorandum. There will also be signage, or will there also be signage to divert patrons from bringing food and beverages to the beach? The memorandum states that the delivery service and equipment included are tables and chairs will not be regularly allowed by the restaurant or individual customers. Now, how are we going to assure this will happen? We've all been to Caddy's in Sunset Beach, and we know how business is conducted there. We can be assured that we won't have the same situation, or how can we be assured that we won't have the same situation here on Madeira Beach? The concerns and threat assessment outlined by the City of Madeira is helpful, but the applicant's responses fall short with regard to the outline of the action items to ensure that the regulations are followed. The responses on the application are not sufficiently addressed the concerns, and we need more detailed responses. Next is Mark Gannon, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, Apartment 1C. As the owner of Unit 1C at the Trillium, we welcome the option of another bar or restaurant to the neighborhood, both of us and the renters that enjoy our condo. However, we do have a few concerns. The first is with regard to noise, and we'd like to request that live music only be allowed inside the building and not on the beach, where noise could spill over to the beach area at our condos, and we ask that alcoholic beverages not be allowed to be consumed on the beach. And our building already has limited parking with issues with non-owners and non-renters using our very small lot and garage. We are concerned about the patrons of Caddy's using our lot, so we would request that the city and the owners of Caddy's commit to working with the nearby condo owners to alleviate concerns and about patrons parking in their private parking spaces. Thank you for your consideration. Kevin and Janet Gibbons is the next one, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, Unit 5B. We are concerned that this is mostly a residential area about noise on the beach and parking for caddies. We'd like the city to carefully consider the number of parking spots available versus the capacity of the restaurant. We do not want people to park in our lot, which is not large, and take up our spots. Also, our beach is quiet and beautiful all times of the day. We do not want caddies to be a loud bar or restaurant with loud music carrying down the beach and surrounding condo buildings, especially into the late evening. Many of us have families and grandchildren that stay with us. Thank you for your consideration. Next one is Lawrence Lund, 11130 First Street, Apartment 3, Treasure Island. Since Marcus Winters purchased Caddy's in Treasure Island, Florida, there's been a substantial decrease in the number of reported needs for Treasure Island's police department to be involved in arrest of customers at Caddy's. As a result of the sale of intoxicating beverages. I believe that the owners of Caddies at Madeira Beach should be granted the right to sell intoxicating beverages at the new Madeira Beach location based on the history of responsible behavior of Caddies in Treasure Island. Next one is Glenn Marconcini, 14010 Gulf Boulevard, Unit 401. Thank you for listening to our concerns with the imminent opening of Caddies. We live in Beach Club of Madeira, the 12-unit condominium complex south of Caddies. We have been subjected to the continual speculation on how the opening of the bar and restaurant with music will impact our community. There has also been little information on how Caddies will run, and we have some questions. What are the hours of Caddies, and what hours will the music be allowed to play? We understand that Caddies on Sunset Beach has numerous problems with increased criminal activity. Will security be present? Will there be adequate parking? We understand that the parking lot across the street, does the city have precautions established to prevent accidents occurring from people crossing? Will they be allowed to have food and alcohol on the beach property? Can we expect that law enforcement to respond quickly and be available? Can we expect the city to have contingency plans if things get out of hand? We know Caddies will get their liquor license, but our hope is that the appropriate ground rules are established and that will require Caddies to be good neighbors and to work with adjacent homeowners. We all have our homes here and are worried about the loud music, drunk patrons spilling out all times of the day and night. This will impact the way that we live as well as our property values. We appreciate listening and responding to our concerns. The next one is James Lyle, 14146 Gulf Boulevard, 2A. Thank you for allowing public comment on Caddies approval. I attended the February 4th informational Zoom meeting hosted by Barry Rubin. My wife and I own a condominium in the Trillium. Our building separates Caddies from our getaway home, or one building separates Caddies from our getaway home. My main concern is at the hours of operation for the restaurant. These hours span breakfast to dinner servings. Marcus Winter stated his desire for Caddies to be a family restaurant. I'm glad because the restaurant's location places itself amongst residential dwellings. My request is simply that the closing hours reflect that of a family restaurant and not a bar. The later the hour of operation becomes, the higher the potential for trouble, mainly because of alcohol use. Included in my concern are the potential problems of patrons walking the beach after leaving the restaurant. Is it reasonable to think that the later the restaurant stays open, the higher the potential for beach trouble, mainly because of the alcohol use? Will neighbors hear customers walking late at night? Will customers leave garbage on the beach? Thank you for addressing these concerns. I don't have a name on this. I just have the comments that came in, I guess, through an email through the clerk's office. And this is to whom it may concern. There are only 5 families that overlook the restaurant from their side balconies, and 4 have owned their condos for over 25 years. They have supported to protect their interest. We believe that we can live with the restaurant next door if they just follow the law. However, it has been their intent from the beginning to direct alcohol on the beach, even though their license does not allow the alcohol to leave the premises of their business. Will alcohol-full people on the beach flow onto our beach and then into our pool? Of course, you can deal with the apparent problem now or have to deal with it in the future. In the past, Caddies has proven that they will not follow the law. Why should Caddies get to do what other establishments serving alcohol has ever done? Extend their legal premise. There is a security issue with the portable bar at the beach level. This bar is on ground level, is only 10 feet from the beach. Who is going to stand there to check every patron to see that they don't step 10 feet to the beach with their alcohol? We'll have security standing there. I guess that's a question. There is also an answer to this problem before the liquor license can be offered. Let them show good faith before opening the ground level bar. You might consider giving them a license for the upstairs restaurant only for 6 months and see how it goes before issuing the license for the ground level bar. You might consider letting them open with food only, since adding alcohol will undoubtedly increase the crowd. You might consider putting off any license for 6 months and revisit it at another time. I would suggest, in closing, that should be a condition to giving them a license if they in any way alcohol delivery service or from a liquor store across the street direct alcohol to be delivered to the beach, their permit is automatically suspended until the current owners no longer own the property. This would be an attempt of them to circumvent your approving a license for their premise. Sincerely, Arthur Clark, Arena de Madeira. The last comment, and this is from Diane Mills. Most of us and Diane is at 14146 Gulf Boulevard 1B. Most of us are familiar with Caddy's operation on Treasure Island, and that's the reason of our concern for the future of Caddy's on Madeira Beach. It is a fun place to visit for a short period of time, but you sure as heck wouldn't want to live there. But because of the questionable city decisions we've inherited, Caddy's as a neighbor. For years, we've heard rumors about a restaurant being built in the green space that used to be Kitty Stewart Park. We were also told that if concrete was actually replacing green, it would be a high-end restaurant. Surprise, it's not. It's fun-loving, noisy, crowded, loud, smoke-filled, people driving through our lot, searching for parking spots, litter on the beach, and it'll attract rodents. No doubt, drunken activity and antics. It'll be a circus. I can only hope that the activities take place inside the walls of the restaurant, which will close by 9 or 10. I hope the music doesn't reach the confines of my home. In addition, I hope the sea turtles continue to visit our part of the beach and not be frightened away by the chaos. Diane Mills.
Any other comments?
I hadn't intended to speak again, but obviously I want to make sure that we address some of those comments and have an opportunity to do that. First and foremost, I want to reiterate that Mr. Winters and Mr. Rubin had a very productive Zoom meeting last Thursday with about 30 residents. And I think while I'm sure there are some folks in the audience here that didn't speak that have concerns, and maybe some that sent emails that are here that didn't want to speak publicly, I do think it speaks volumes to the fact that you didn't have any public opposition in terms of speaking publicly tonight, that hopefully a lot of those concerns have been addressed through Mr. Winters and Mr. Rubin's proactivity, and also through our work collaboratively with the city staff to put forth regulations that are above and beyond your code, above and beyond your noise ordinance, above and beyond your sea turtle ordinance, above and beyond the development agreement that we're willing to live with and abide by. I can't tell you this for 100% certainty, but I'd be willing to venture a guess that this is already one of the most, if not the most regulated properties in all of Madeira Beach by virtue of the development agreement and the site plan approval. Any conditions that are put above and beyond on top of that, I think just goes again to show the good faith and the collaboration of my client, who's willing to be the most regulated property in the city in order to open his business. And I don't think that it is inappropriate to mention that he's accomplished all of this during COVID. And to put $6 million into a property and be willing to open it, he wants to get to work. He wants to get his 100 people to work. And he wants to make sure that that property is a good neighbor and a beneficial property for you and for the citizens of Madeira Beach. I think that concludes, my response and my comments. I think that any of the concerns that were addressed are clearly addressed by the conditions that Ms. Portal put forward, if not already addressed by the development agreement or by your noise ordinance or your other city codes. And again, I'll answer any questions if you have those, but if not, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Yes, before you get away. I had brought up a privacy fence, and you said because of the landscaping and whatnot, you couldn't say that y'all would do that. This was brought up to Mr. Winters over 2 months ago when I visited the property and spoke with Mr. Winters, and I brought up a privacy fence at that time. This is highly regulated because it's in the middle of a residential area. And I don't think that's asking too much just to put up a privacy fence between the two properties. And I still feel that way. And again, I will ask Mr. Winters, Marcus, will you put up a privacy fence between you and those condos on each side of you? I don't think that's asking too much. And I think it'll eliminate a lot of problems on down the road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The only other thing I'd have to add on that, just because I think it's important, we have trees there, and I don't know the tree roots. You theoretically may have to tear out all the trees, and I'm not sure.
There were no trees there when we discussed it before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there being no other questions of any of the people that testified, it's now back before the commission for consideration and approval. So now is not the time to ask additional questions. It's just to decide whether or not the application should be authorized and if there are any conditions.
Okay, I have no other questions or comments. I just need a motion on whether or not to approve this with the stipulations as stated by Director Portell.
I think the fence is a problem. I think us requiring this gentleman to stand up and say, if it'll make you happy, I'll put in a fence, after they've done all this other stuff. If it's not going to be feasible, if he puts up a fence and then he gets hit with a code of our, a violation of our fencing code, what good does that do anybody?
I'm sure he'll do it by code, and Marcus has given me his word, so I'm good with that. I trust the man at his word, that's all.
Doesn't the pool have a fence around it now?
Not that blocks it, not a solid fence. So anyhow, I just need a motion as to whether or not we approve this.
Well, yeah, just one more thing. These guys, reading this, these guys have bent over backwards for us. They put in $600,000, and they're going to increase our parking revenue dramatically. And they're just willing to agree to every term, and they haven't asked for anything. They haven't come to us outside of the agreement that was signed in 2013 and asked us for anything. I think it's about time we throw our arms around these guys and welcome them to the community and the property taxes that they're going to be bringing towards us. I think they're going to be a great partner, and I'm looking forward to dealing with them. So I'll make a motion to pass ABP 2021-03 with the contingents that Director Portell gave us.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
No.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-1.
Next on the public hearings is a public hearing to consider a request by Amy B. Powell on behalf of Coastal Taco LLC for an alcoholic beverage use. Director Portell.
Okay, I need to get everyone sworn in that's going to testify in this particular application. Is there anyone here in the audience that is going to speak on this particular agenda item considered for alcoholic beverage license for Coastal Taco LLC? Anyone that's going to speak? Okay, raise your right hand and be sworn under oath. You've already been yours. You can stand up. I need your... So you swear the testimony you're about to give is to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you.
Good evening again. This is actually going to be a lot simpler, you'll be glad to know. It hasn't been that long since you've seen this property because you recently already approved it for an alcoholic beverage license. And, but it never opened and got started, as things happen often with small businesses. And, so now it's proposed for a different bar, the restaurant Coastal Taco LLC, and it's in the, usual C3 retail district, and so is consistent with other uses in the area. So, one by one, and the reason we have to read these out every time is you have to have findings for quasi-judicial determination, and I want to make sure that you've got your findings on the record. So, the first is that the extent to which the location and the extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. Coastal Taco is located along Gulf, which is a major commercial corridor through Madeira Beach. The restaurants in C3 Retail Commercial District provides services to both permanent and transient residents with a high degree of accessibility. The various restaurants along Gulf Boulevard already serve beer and wine. Previous restaurant at this location has sold beer and wine. Allowing beer and wine to be sold at the restaurant would not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood, which is commercially focused and previously approved to the same use, and not just the most recent one. Number two, the extent to which traffic generated because of the location of the proposed alcoholic beverage request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. Again, this is in an area that's already developed for commercial. It's only been used for commercial, and all traffic counts and all impacts from that site have already been anticipated. This is not increasing the impacts in any way because it's actually replacing an exact same use. So it's a continuation of the food, beer, and wine at that location. No congestion in addition to anything that's already been experienced there, and no safety hazards will be changed or newly created. There are many hotels and condominiums within walking distance, and from a planning perspective, that's really important that you can get people food in an area they're living in, and they don't have to get back in their cars. Doing so actually reduces the overall traffic congestion on the road, the number of maneuvers, and it makes it safer. And also, keep in mind that this is a multimodal travel option, and there are living accommodations nearby as well. But with buffering, whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the location for which it is proposed, again, that's a zoning question and a compatibility issue. It is already determined by the comp plan by virtue of its location and its designation, both land use and zoning, to be compatible with other commercial uses, and that it's been in that use for many years. It's not located within 300 feet of a church, synagogue, temple, place of religious worship, public or private school operation for the instruction of minors, or a youth recreation center. We have to make, we have to do those measurements every time because we know where all those are, so it's pretty simple for us most of the time. And our commercial areas generally are not that closely located to any of those things. Number four, whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect the public safety. Food would be the primary focus of the restaurant. Beer and wine complement to the food. Previous restaurants have sold beer and wine for that location. The proposed use would not adversely affect public safety, as all considerations for the site plan have long been put in place, and all traffic and the means of access have long been established by the Department of Transportation, and also access on and off the site have been consistent throughout the changes of business. And then fifth, that there's no application for review under the section which would consider involving any, we can't consider this unless if they have any outstanding charges, fees, interest, fines, or penalties, and there are no outstanding fines or penalties owed to the city under any section of the code. Staff recommends approval of the I don't know where the number is, the alcoholic beverage permit for Coastal Taco at 1460 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach.
Any questions of Ms. Portal? You want to tender into evidentiary report?
Excuse me?
Did you want to tender it in?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. There being no other questions, is the applicant here today? If you want to step forward. Is there a presentation that you wanted to make today?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a presentation that you wanted to make today?
I just did more of a statement.
Okay, if you could state your name, please.
Amy Powell, 15320 Harbor Drive, just across the way. See my dog on the dock. All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Bob, Commissioners, Council. We are very excited to stabilize this location at 14601. We think it's a great little location. We want to make it a cool little beach spot with a good community neighbor. So it is our second location in Madeira Beach. We are residents of Madeira Beach as well, and we're incredibly excited and look forward to seeing all of you there.
Any questions of Ms. Powell? There's no questions. Anybody else who want to speak on this agenda item? Sir, did you want to speak? Okay, all right. Were there any emails? No. Okay. So, anyone else from the public? So we can close the quasi-judicial hearing. It's back to the commission for consideration and approval.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the request by Amy B. Powell on behalf of Coastal Taco LLC for an alcoholic beverage use license.
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Congratulations.
Next is the consent agenda. Is there anything on there that the commission wishes to add or pull to the consent agenda?
I would like to pull letter C from the consent agenda. I think we need to have a discussion about that.
Okay.
That was the scope of work for Cardno to perform seawall assessment.
Looks like we're in agreement on that, because I had that one circled. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so if it's, my recommendation would be put it under new business, a new item D, if that's sufficient for the commission.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve consent agenda with item C, move to new business?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda with item C moved to new business 11D.
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Okay, I don't think we have any unfinished business tonight, or contracts or agreements. Next is new business. Item A, proposal for purchasing Palm Street property for the purpose of putting a parking lot there. Ease the burden for lack of parking in the city. Vice Mayor Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a pretty short and sweet proposal. Obviously, contract work and everything else has to get done for this. I spent some time speaking with the partners over there at the new Caddies, and it was a very easy negotiation. Frankly, if you read the letter that they provided, they kept it short and sweet, and basically they're going to charge us the same price that they paid for this lot in 2017, which I think we all know the property values have gone up considerably since 2017. To keep with the consistency of the area, the pavered parking lots, the drainage, everything else across the board, and I can tell you just because of my proximity to it, the lot up on the lot that they're going to be using for valet parking used to flood like crazy, but since they've gone in, provided drainage, and used those the pavers, you never, obviously when it was underwater during ETA, different story, but on normal circumstances, the water washes right off and right down to the drain. So it's worked perfectly. It's the same pavers that they've used on Kitty Stewart Park, and they would be using at our location on Palm Street if we were to purchase it. Total all-in cost would be $430,000. The way the lot breaks down, it would be, if you guys look at the drawing that I've given you, it would be 10 spots. They would be right along. They wouldn't interfere with the home behind it. There'd be 10 spots right along the main road on 141st. We could also opt, which I would like to have a discussion anyway about, because we have no parking signs. I thought when we discussed that before, there's no parking signs on 141st there where residents have parked for, I've lived in that house for 9 years, forever. What I thought the signs were going to say, they were going to be resident-only parking signs. They read no parking, and I get complaints every day about it. But we could also, besides the 10 spots there, since we could put a parking machine right in that parking lot, we could add 3 additional parking spots on the street, which would give us a total of 13. Okay, so we'd have 13 spots in that lot. Remember, we'd be purchasing the lot, so once we paid for from the parking revenue, once we paid for that, we then own the lot going forward. I spent a little time with Jamie today. I'm sorry, not with Jamie. I'm looking for a piece of paper because I lost it. There it is. I spent a little time with Andrew today, and we talked a little bit about parking revenue and what to expect. So our spots, every spot in this city ranges anywhere from about $3,900 a spot all the way up to $7,387. I would think that given the fact that it's going to be a pretty busy spot during the day, I think that those spots will fill up very quickly. I also think beachgoers will start using that as a main spot because there's going to be a bathroom there as well. Just a quick estimate, just with the 5 spots, obviously, if it was $5,000 a month, $5,000 a year on them, you'd be talking about a $50,000 return on our investment right away. If we added the 3 spots in the street, obviously that would be another $15,000 on top of that. Yes, there will be residents parking there that aren't going to be paying, but guess what? Every other parking lot we have, the exact same deal. So I think that, obviously there's cheaper ways to do this. That was the only thing else I wanted to add. We could just asphalt it, but we end up losing a spot on the end. And I don't think, again, this is a lot that would flood normally. I think that we'd be subject to the same ideas. I do not have a price on it because I know that would be the next question if we went asphalt. But I think just to keep in the beautification aspect of the city, they're also going to be doing landscaping. If you can see the proposal, this would include engineering, civil site work, drainage, utilities, footpaths, permeable pavers, and landscaping. And obviously, they would follow all of our building codes going forward. Happy to answer any questions I can answer. I'm not an engineer, but I will be happy to get the same deal as the people that oversaw the Crystal Island project, and you can pay me $200,000 instead of my balcony, and I can watch and make sure that everything's done correctly. That was a joke. Wayne Ayers, that was a joke. Don't put that in the paper this week, please. Please. But that's it, guys. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
So did you do any calculations on estimated annual return on this?
Yes. Yeah. So I did. I can give you kind of a little bit of a rundown. Village Boulevard, for example, there's 114 spots. Average or the revenue from 20. These are 2020 numbers, right, Andrew? Okay. $842,000, 114 spots. That would average $7,387 per spot. Johns Pass Park, about $4,500 a spot. The Village Boulevard one, I can understand because people are kind of in and out there real quick. They'll pay for 3 hours, they'll leave in an hour. I have a feeling with restaurant parking, you're going to kind of get the same thing for people that are going to the restaurant alone. People that spend the whole day there, you're probably going to get a little bit more. So, but the average, like I said, it ranges anywhere from $3,900 per spot in this city to about $7,300. Again, being a popular beach spot, being a restaurant, brand new restaurant, and name brand restaurant moving in there, I think it's safe to say we'll probably look around $5,000 a spot. With 10 spots, not counting the other 3, that'd be a $50,000 a year return on investment. And like I said, even if it takes us 10 years to recoup our dough, we then own a piece of property that, I don't know what it'll be worth in 10 years, but I'm sure it'll be worth a little bit more than it is currently. So I like anything that's revenue producing and obviously gives us an investment in our town.
How big is this lot?
Big enough for 10 spots.
There you go. I don't.
I mean, is it the same size lot as the house, 40 by 100 or whatever we do here?
Yeah, basically, if you looked at my house across the street and that lot, it would be similar to it, but looks like my lot's a little bigger that I live on, just a little bit.
So it looks like about the same size as on Palm Street. Those houses.
Yeah, about that. Yep.
I think Commissioner Andrews is looking at opening a hot dog stand in his driveway.
You ain't kidding. I'm gonna. Yep.
There's no tea bag, please.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've got some questions, please. Why would we pay $43,000 per spot? It does not make any sense to me. That's question number one. It just does not make sense to pay $43,000 for a parking spot. That is going to be our costs, and I don't see how you come up with making $50,000, because if they use it 8 hours a day, it's going to take over 2 years to make back that money. That's if they use it 8 hours a day, every day of the week. And that does not happen at any place on the beach, period. So could you answer that question?
Absolutely. Well, first off, we're not paying $43,000 a spot. We're paying for the land first, John. So after this is all over,
$130,000, and we're going to put 10 spots there. Divided that out, that's $43,000 anyway.
Correct. But we are going to own the land. We're not renting the land. We're going to own the land after it's over. So we do have an asset after that's done. If you want to consider it $43,000 for the sake of math, that's fine, but you also have to consider at the end, we have an asset that's going to be worth probably north of $250,000. Okay? So you got to consider that. I mean, you could take it out of the equation if you'd like, and you want to just blast in and say $43,000 a spot, but we're also going to be controlling an asset. It's not lost revenue. Okay? I will agree with you that the $180,000 that we are spending for all of the services that I talked about, engineering, civil site work, drainage, utilities, et cetera, okay? That's a pretty good chunk of money. But if we're going to be making $5,000 a spot, and I'm giving you actual data, okay? When I gave you that number of $5,000, I didn't just pluck a number out of the sky. I gave you actual data from actual spots in this city that we earn income from 2020, not from 10 years ago, from 2020. So these are actual numbers that will coincide with the spots that are there. Could it be more? Sure. Could it be less? Yes. It is a variable. I know that. But I can't answer that question intelligently without having people parked there and the restaurant open.
I guess I do not understand. It sounds like you're lobbying for a parking lot for caddies who already owns this property, but then we're going to take it and give them $430,000 so they can park there as well as in their valet parking and underneath their building. I don't understand why we're doing that.
Okay, well, so here's the issue on that. I will assure you, well, I can't assure you, but I would highly doubt that the restaurant workers or the bartenders at Caddy's are going to park in a spot because they work on tips, okay? They want those spots occupied by patrons, okay? We also have the option, we don't have enough parking in this city, okay? One of the biggest issues, one of the biggest concerns of why they built out Kitty Stewart Park was because we weren't going to have enough parking for our people that enjoy going to the beach there. This alleviates part of that problem. Yes, are there going to be residents parking there? Absolutely. Do the residents have to pay? No, they do not. But every other number that I just gave you, that Andrew gave to me today, includes resident-free parking. So do I have a definitive answer for you of when it's going to be paid off? No, I don't. But it's also an asset for the city. Buying property in our town is a good thing for a city to do. Absolutely.
You know, Doug, once before, I brought that up and you voted dead against it when I said, let's sell the one place in Fantasy Planet and buy spots for parking lot, and you voted no. We're not going to ever do that.
I don't remember voting no to that, John. I actually, we haven't agreed on much in the past, but I think I actually voted yes to that. I may be wrong, but your idea was to sell Fantasy Planet and buy a lot on the beach. That's not even feasible.
Yes.
You know what a lot on the beach would cost us?
Yes,
We're getting a lot across the street from the beach with a crosswalk right in front of it for $250,000. Yes, we'd have to spend this money anyway to renovate it. But if we were going to try to buy a spot on the beach, I think we could ask Caddy's how much they paid for that piece of property.
Another question. You know,
sure.
On the letter, I'm reading the letter that that was sent to me today by them about the parking lot and the cost and all that. Why are we having them have their contractor do that, and the city's not going out for bids on doing that, fixing it up?
It's a really good question. I think I addressed that the last time that we spoke about this. But first off, I think the continuity of the area should be preserved. If all of these lots look alike, I think it'll be, I just think aesthetically it'll be nicer. Number two, the reason I want them to do it is because they've got a sense of urgency. They want it open quicker than we do, okay? So, you know, we've seen the quality of work that they've already accomplished, not only in Kitty Stewart Park, but in their valet lot. Why not let them continue that work, and they'll get on it right away and get it open as soon as we sign as soon as the ink's dry in the papers. I mean, if you want to go out for bid, we could certainly do that. This isn't part of the contingency. When I spoke to you all the last time, that's what I was asked to do. That's what I'm providing you. I have no say in this either way as far as I'm only one vote. But this is what I was asked to provide, and I provided it.
I think $186,000, we definitely need to send that out for bid. You know, that's my opinion. Next thing I would like to ask from you, since you did all this and as representing the city, I guess, I would like to kind of see all the public records on your information back and forth between them, emails, letters, text, or whatever, and make it public record, please.
No problem, John. It was a meeting. I sat down with them. We discussed it. They wrote me a letter, and I provided it to you. There's no. I hope you're not insinuating something, but I was just given a letter. This is what I got. They gave me this. They went and paid for a drawing. So you have everything I have currently.
Okay, I just want to make everything public record. If we're purchasing something, I just want to have all the public record involved in it as possible, please.
Okay, I'll be happy to provide you my email from Andrew today. But besides that, that's about all I have. I didn't, you know, there really wasn't a whole lot that went into this as far as trying to figure this out. I was asked to provide, I made a reference of this to the board at the workshop. I was asked to provide a figure. These guys, in a very, very short window, provided this for me. So that's all I did. No more, no less.
All righty, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, one thing I was just thinking about on this too is that over the years, parking revenues will increase. So if the more parking spots we have, as our parking rates increase over the years, not only will we have property, but we'll have an increased revenue generated off parking rate increases.
I agree with you. I mean, this is going to be a gift that keeps on giving. There's really going to be no, unless, we get swallowed up by a tsunami or something, this is going to be a viable parking lot for people to park at. And, it's kind of our job up here, too. Remember, we're kind of like the old Roman Empire, right? We're the Council of Elders. We're supposed to be looking 2-3 generations down the road. And that's what we're doing. I mean, this is going to be, it's a win-win across the board. I think the price that we're paying on it, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know if this is high or low, but if it's going to look like those other parking lots, I think it's worth the investment. And it's also worth the investment because the sooner it gets up, the sooner we start generating revenue. So that's just my thoughts on it, guys.
I think I'd like to see more on the value of the land. I think the 180 to build it out with all the things that you mentioned and to make it look similar to the other one is fine. But I'm not sure 250,000 for an empty lot. I don't know if that's a good deal. I don't know how big this lot is, for instance. I mean,
well, you're a block off the Gulf of Mexico.
well, we were just talking about a different lot tonight for 180.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 210, actually, the one we were talking about earlier.
We can check into the value. That's very easy to get an appraisal on the property, but I have to agree with Commissioner Andrews, Vice Mayor Andrews. I think the long term is probably good for Madeira Beach. Will the Caddy's restaurant be using that some? Yeah, but they'll be paying us for every second it gets used. Probably better than having them owning the lot and us generating no revenue from it.
no, I agree. I agree with that. Before I pay $250,000 for something, I usually look into it a little bit more.
Well, I don't think our decision is tonight on whether or not to buy it, but I certainly think we can at least move forward, get an appraisal on it, and bring it back to the commission for a vote. If that's the route you'd like to go, I think that would be prudent.
Yeah, my suggestion would be please just take a spin by the area and check out those parking lots, the ones that are finished, and I think you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. I thought, like I said, I'm not an engineer. I thought we could probably fit more spots on that piece of land, but again, I don't know the ins and outs of how that works out. I would, however, even if we do come up with a consensus at some time in the near future, either hold a special meeting or what we need to do to get it done, because like I said, timing's of the essence. They're going to open up. We could get this thing done. They gave me kind of a window of, they could probably from the time the contract was signed, about 35 days to get it up and operational. And then that would just mean we'd have to get the parking machine out there and get going. I also would like to actually ask the board if we can remove those no parking signs from 141st and change them to resident-only signs in the interim, because, people are finding other places to park where they're not really supposed to, and they're parking in the Caddy's valet lot where they're not going to be able to park pretty soon, and these are the residents that are parking there. So if we could change those signs across the street. Jamie said, I don't know, you there, Jamie? I forgot the quote that you told me. It wasn't a necessity, but it was a...
They were placed there based on a recommendation for me to look into the area, and based upon best practices and interpretation of our parking code, those were my suggestions. So.
Okay, but there's no FDOT or anything law that says we have to have a no parking sign there or anything like that, right?
As long as they maintain the clear distance from the intersection.
Correct, okay. And so there would be no reason we couldn't put a resident-only parking sign there for the time being?
Other than, you know, the impact of having, those streets are only about 24 feet wide.
Right.
So we'd have somebody parking on the street, that essentially moves that down to a one-way street.
Yeah.
But,
Well, people have been parking there for decades, I don't really see a problem. Would there be any problem with putting parking spots there, like I'm suggesting with,
Like 3 along the street, along 141st? I
Right.
think that'd be a great idea if we could.
yeah.
Yeah,
mean,
I do too.
Right. So,
Put parking by resident parking only, and
Right.
then when and if this lot is finished, if we purchase it, make them
Pay
pay
parking.
spots, and then
Absolutely.
residents can still park there.
correct.
So that's an additional probably 3. I think you have to be 30 feet back from the intersection, according to the deputy that gave me a ticket for doing that.
It looks like we have that.
So,
Okay.
I'd like to see this move to the workshop, have some information from staff on an appraisal on that property, and,
Why don't we just say, let's get an appraisal on it?
yeah. And then bring it up for a vote at the next commission meeting.
March 10th?
Does that fit, Commissioner Andrews, with your schedule? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, in reference to those signs, I will get that done.
Public comment?
Robert Hussman, 425 South Bay Shore. That lot's been an eyesore for years and years and years, and there's been garbage on it and piled concrete and crap. It looks horrible. But I'm kind of going to sit here and make Doug eat his own words. Where in the budget is this? We're not going to do it unless it's in the budget.
Oh, Bob, you know I've got a plan, man, come on. Ask Andrew where it is.
That's what it is right
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
It's not, you know, it's not budgeted.
Correct.
While we're still on this,
There's another public comment.
okay, next. Debbie?
Debbie Weinstein, 441 129th. I thought when you were talking about the possible amount of revenues and stuff, you could probably, I would suggest that maybe you would use a parking lot that's on Gulf Boulevard and 134th, which currently has, I think, 8 or 10, 12 places on it, okay? And you can obviously get from the parking department the revenue that just those meters have produced in, say, the last couple of years. And you'd really be able to see, because you're on the, say, east side of Gulf Boulevard, you're on a corner lot, or right at the corner, and you might be able to get an idea of what your proposed revenue might be. And the other question I was going to ask was, I didn't understand why this particular item was not addressed or brought forth by staff. I would think, I've never heard it being an item to purchase property being proposed by a member of commission, and I was just curious, is that something that, you know, that should be done that way? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Next is Resolution 2021-02. Mr. Laughlin?
You want me to read that title, Mayor?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. This is Resolution 2021-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting the City of Madeira Beach Purchasing Procedures Manual, version 2021, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was the reading of Resolution 2021-02 by title only.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Laughlin, please.
Sure. If you all remember from our workshop meeting, I had proposed revisions to the 2007 purchasing manual. I felt that there were several needed updates. I presented those to you, namely the manner in which purchasing procedures are conducted. That's different now in practice. Clarifying some particular aspects, namely exceptions to when there's the need for a competitive bidding process, so provided more clarity around that, and then updated the purchasing thresholds to higher amounts that I felt would reduce some of the administrative burdens that the departments are currently facing with smaller dollar purchases in which they need to get quotations. So ultimately, you had no objections to the manual as it was written, so this is the resolution that essentially solidifies that. If you approve this, then the next course of action for the next board meeting will have an ordinance that we'll be presenting that will amend the existing sections to the Code of Ordinances that would be in conflict with this resolution. So ultimately, we get not only a resolution that adopts a new policy, but also update our Code of Ordinances to reflect these changes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion by the commission?
I think we talked at length about this already,
Yes.
so I'm good.
Is there any public comment? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we pass Resolution 2021-02, amendments to the Purchasing Procedures Manual.
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
The motion carries 5-0.
Next is Resolution 2021-03, requesting the ICMA to reinstate former City Manager Shane Crawford as a member into the ICMA. This was something that was brought up by me last commission meeting, and again, I'll go over one or two things that I did at that time.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor, can I read the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Resolution 2021-03, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, requesting the International City-County Management Association, ICMA, to reinstate former City Manager Shane Crawford as a member of the ICMA and providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of Resolution 2021-03 by title only. Thank you.
Thank you. This was brought up last meeting. I don't feel like someone should be given a life sentence to something. It's something I compared to a kid back in the early 70s being arrested because he had a joint in his pocket, and 30 years later he's still in prison for that. And I don't feel like it's fair to Mr. Crawford to have been given a lifetime suspension from the ICMA for whatever reason they felt. So that's my feeling on that. I could go deeper, but I think all that was discussed last meeting. And I would like to pursue this. I would like to see a resolution passed by this city commission.
I agree. I think if mistakes were made and learned from, that someone should be able to pursue their chosen field. We've already discussed how we don't necessarily want him back in our town, but certainly Shane did a whole lot for this city.
Yes, he did.
You stop and you look at everything that's happening in the city right now. You look at City Hall, the fire station, the rec center, all the other buildings and everything else that's occurred. You have to look at Shane. He's the one that did it. And I do remember the day that he was hired, and they asked him to regenerate Madeira Beach, bring it up to date, make it so it looks more attractive. And basically that's what he had done. I know, Mr. Trask, we had asked a letter be sent. Was this something that was already done?
So no, the direction was to, instead of doing the letter, was to prepare it in a more formal fashion, and that would be by doing it by resolution. So this is more of a formality than a letter itself, and so that was the direction I was given, prepare the resolution instead of the letter.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's something I'd like to see done, and I would like to thank, personally, I would like to thank the Crawfords for what they did on moving this city forward. I think great injustice was done to them, and it was strictly, for the most part, what happened was a personal attack on Mr. Crawford. And for my part, as mayor, I'd like to apologize to you. So is there any public comment on this?
I'm Jean Shivington. I live at 14902 North Bay Shore. We were never happy with Shane as our city manager. We were glad he got fired, and I don't think we should be revisiting this. And if he can't get a job as a city manager, it's because he got fired, not because he's not in this organization. There's plenty of people that are city managers not in this organization. If he had been a good city manager, he would have been hired. We didn't like having him, and we were glad he got fired. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Rostek, 480, 137th Avenue Circle. Good evening. What does this resolution have to do with the day-to-day operations of the city? Nothing. Does it benefit the city or the taxpayer? Absolutely not. Will this resolution benefit special interest, providing a special privilege or benefit that is not afforded to all? The answer is yes. Mr. Crawford was found guilty by two separate AHJs, authority having jurisdiction over his actions. He appears to be a dishonest person with proven acts of unethical behavior, obviously has no moral compass. As evidenced by two guilty verdicts, as well as fines from the state ethics commission signed by the governor. There is no appeal here. Mr. Crawford had an opportunity to provide additional information. He had his chance. He blew it. He got caught being on the take. Mr. Crawford signed the resignation agreement, but the language in the agreement says it's to be treated as termination without cause, costing the taxpayers $160K of our money. But now, wait a minute. We have the city who fired him. He is coming to his friends, obviously, at the city, and wanting a letter of recommendation. I'm running out of time. Standard of Conduct, Florida Administrative Code. No public officer, employee of an agency, or local government attorney, the one that made the suggestion that this proclamation should take place, shall corruptly use or attempt to use his or her official position, any property or resource which may be within his or her trust, or perform his or her official duties to secure special privilege, benefit, or exemption for himself or others. The resource being the city, its letterhead, the vote, and power behind the authority of government. The special privilege, the benefit is the resolution of an employee that you terminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I do have some electronic comments.
Okay, thank you.
Quite a-
I think there's someone behind you that
Oh,
wanted to.
sorry. I apologize.
Hi, Janet Melia, 15403 Second Street East. I spoke with you at the workshop, and I thought about it quite a bit in the intervening time, and my opinion has not changed. You like to bring up all the big things that Shane did while he was the city manager here. We can discuss the relative merits and bad points of those, but in any case, he did it, he was compensated for it, very highly compensated for it, and it's done. To then give him this resolution, which I see can in no way be a matter for the city, because you're telling me you're not going to hire him back. We have no reason, as taxpayers, to want to put in the time, the effort, Mr. Trask's fee that he gets paid to be doing this, so that one of your friends can be reinstated into the ICMA, which he was taken out of for cause. They don't even, at that point, they didn't even know about these things that had gone on with the state, where he was sanctioned by the state and fined by the state. There's obviously a pattern here. Everybody can make a mistake once. As far as I see it, he's made at least a handful. And the only reason he hasn't made more is because we haven't given him a chance. So I'd appreciate you rethinking your position. Don't think you will, but I'll feel better for having it put my point forward. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, we're all on salary. We don't get paid additionally for the extra hours. My pay is about 17 cents an hour, I think, if it was broken down. Yeah. Now, city manager, your electronic messages.
Yes. The first one is from Thomas Schaefer, 850 Bay Point Drive. I respectfully ask the city commission to reject this resolution. Taken on its merits, the resolution has a significant omission. Mr. Crawford was expelled from ICMA not only for having a personal relationship with a subordinate, Tenant 3, according to the ICMA expulsion letter dated 9 of 2016, Tenant 12 of its Code of Ethics was also violated. Per the ICMA letter, additionally, the Executive Board determined that Crawford reaped the undue benefit based on the recommendations that he made for increases to the employee's salary and position. Crawford and the employee shared a bank account. This constitutes a violation of Tenant 12, which states the members shall not leverage their position for personal gain or benefit. This is far more significant violation of personal enrichment, and its omission is a significant oversight. Furthermore, the permanent expulsion of Mr. Crawford is a matter to be settled between him and ICMA. Mr. Crawford was not expelled due to any action of the city, and it is not clear why the city interest is served by this resolution. Mr. Crawford's termination agreement with the city or the circumstances therein have no bearing on the ICMA decision. Mr. Crawford has been free to request the ICMA revisit its permanent ban ever since it occurred in September of 2016. The timing of this resolution is curious, given the recent charter amendment requiring ICMA membership for the city manager. I urge rejection of this bad faith resolution respectfully. The next one is Denise Rostek, 480 137th Avenue Circle. I do not support the passing of this resolution. What does this have to do with city business? Nothing. This is using a political position to benefit a terminated employee. The separation agreement states termination without cause. He was fired, as well as was paid a significant amount of money to leave without a fight. He left. He, Crawford, was found guilty after an independent investigation was conducted. He was stripped of his certification. I believe the mayor, city attorney, and commissioners who support this are acting in an unethical, unprofessional manner, as well as having personal agendas. This is misuse of the public position. No matter how you vote on this topic, you have shown your true colors. You have no allegiance to the taxpayers, and I guess you didn't pay attention during the required ethics training. The next one is from Mr. Howell. Mr. Howell is, I don't have his address here, but I know he's on Johns Pass Avenue. As a tax-paying resident of Madeira Beach, I ask that you not approve the proposed resolution and letter in support of Shane Crawford being reinstated by the ICMA. This is not a Madeira Beach business. With all of the issues that the residents of Madeira Beach are facing day in and day out, I find it appalling that you spend your limited time on this topic. Frankly, it's embarrassing that the Commission spends more time trying to rewrite history than addressing current issues. We elected you to address current issues and plan for the future, not to dredge up the past and rewrite it. Please withdraw this and get on with the important business you need to address now for all the residents of Madeira Beach. Don't use your power to help one individual that a separate professional organization has already reviewed and made judgment on, and has nothing to do with the current problems and challenges that we face in Madeira Beach. Please do the right thing and withdraw this and help the residents of this city by focusing on today's issues and the future. Thank you, Bill. The next comment is Deborah Maximo. I don't have an address. To whom it may concern, I've known Shane Crawford for many years. I've been a friend and a confidant with Shane and Cheryl when they were interested in dating. I was well aware that the City Commission was in approval of their relationship. During this time, Cheryl McCready, now Crawford, planned to quit her job. However, the City Commission urged her to stay as she and the city manager had proven to be an effective team. What ultimately happened was the result of a course well documented. It is my sincere hope that Madeira Beach will right the wrong. Madeira has had a long history of questionable politics. To ruin an individual's life and career based on a romance, now a marriage, is senseless, especially when you consider the examples of others who have served the city. Those with arrest records, lawsuits against the city, etc. It is the right thing to do to reinstate Shane Crawford with the ICMA so he could move on and resume his career as a city manager elsewhere. Next message is from Mark Hubbard, from Hubbard's Marina. Mayor Hendricks and current commission, I have heard Shane Crawford is trying to get his stolen ICMA back. I feel the current and future Mad Beach commissions and staff should support any effort to achieve this, because he is good professional city servant who can benefit any city management anywhere he goes. He did well when he was instructed to do his during his past employment with Madeira Beach. He was unfairly treated, and the previous city elected toxic atmosphere. Thank you for the support you can lend at reinstating his ICMA to its original status. Thank you for your time today, Mark Hubbard. The next one is from William Gay. Crawford is unfit for ICMA. The address is 423 150th Avenue, Madeira Beach. Crawford is unfit for ICMA reinstatement based on the ICMA's findings and the actions he took after expulsion from ICMA. The Florida Ethics Commission report details Crawford's rentals of beachfront and luxury condos in Indian Shores. The condos are owned by developer lobbyist David Becker and William Carnes, both of whom had million-dollar projects pending city approval. Crawford lived in these $2 million luxury condos from early 2015 to June 2016. During this time as city manager, he was the key decision maker in improving their development projects. In late 2015, Crawford terminated the city's development director and took full control of the project approval process. The Ethics Commission determined the fair market value of the monthly rent of the condos was $7,000, for which Crawford paid $2,500. That's $4,500 below the market value. Over his 30-month residency, Crawford received $135,000 in rental subsidy gifts, approximately $108,000 from Becor in 2015 and $27,000 from Carnes in 2016. Did Crawford developers declare the Crawford rent subsidy gifts on their federal income tax filings? Did Crawford report his gifts from Becker and Carnes on Florida Form 1 Statement of the Financial Interest in 2015 and 2016? In a joint stipulation with the Ethics Commission, Crawford admitted accepting gifts from Becor and Carnes and paid a $2,000 fine. Executive order of Governor DeSantis on 2/11 of 2020 declared Crawford violated several Florida statutes. Statute 112.348, accepting a gift from a developer, and Statute 112.313, having a conflicting contractual relationship with a lobbyist. And then it gives the site from a complaint, Pinellas County Circuit Court, Robert Decker, trustee of Patricia Shantz Living Trust. And then complaint, Pinellas County Circuit Court, Cajun Buildings, LLC, plaintiff and against Shane Crawford. The filing sought damages of $27,328 of .97. Money Crawford withdrew from Cajun Buildings without authorization. This is I don't know who this is from, so do I have to read one that's anonymous? Okay. Tonight there's consideration of a resolution of the City of Madeira Beach requesting ICMA to reconsider my suspension from their organization. Oh, this is from Shane. Although ICMA suspended me for one issue alone, a relationship with an employee that was approved and endorsed by the City Commission unanimously, and of those of whom I ultimately married, state of Florida ethics violations also played into the all-around state of my reputation. Over the last 4 years, people on both sides of the issue have come to me. What's interesting is the majority of the people against me 4 years ago are upset that they were lied to. Meetings were held regarding professional and personal harm to me and my family. A slanderous initiative was created, and most importantly, a smear campaign of nothing but lies ensued. The ringleader of the whole issue told me when I refused to sabotage the development projects in town that she didn't play fair or nice. Later that night, after midnight, she called me to tell me that she was going to ruin my professional and personal life. In reference to the ethics violation, I don't believe the Commission on Ethics made the correct decision because it did not have the benefit of the following information. One, first rental, TRS of Madeira Beach set up this rental, 16326 Gulf Boulevard, number 502 in Reddington Beach, sold for $925,000 in the 2015-26 time period. 2,275 square feet. I paid $1,500 a month rent, and the landlord was responsible for everything. Sale price was $407 a square foot. Second rental is a small 3-bedroom cottage on Harbor Drive in Madeira Beach. No one ever brought this one up. Third rental, 19424 Gulf Boulevard, number 502 in Indian Shores, sold for $1,424,000 in August of 2018, 4,730 square feet. I paid $2,000 a month and was responsible for all the upkeep, and it was for sale, and I have to move out with 30-day notice. Sale price was $301 a square foot. The fourth rental from 19424 Gulf Boulevard, number 301, 3,900 square feet. I paid $2,500 a month and was responsible for all the upkeep, and it was for sale, and I'd have to move out with 30-day notice. Sale price was $980,000 in May of 2019 for $251 a square foot, then again in December of 2019 for $1,314,000.
Any other emails?
That's the last one.
Mr. Preston?
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. You know, it's really kind of funny how these speakers get up here and talk about what a bad guy Shane is. And, you know, I was caught up in that in the very beginning, because I even donated money to the Madeira Beach United group, headed by Bill Gay and his Vendetta group. And I actually campaigned against the others and for the group that eventually got up here until I got smarter and ended up putting my signs down. Because I realized that this whole thing, from the commission that got up here, the firing of Shane, and this other group, was nothing but a vendetta because they did not want the town center developed, period. That's the bottom line. And they wanted to destruct anybody that was involved in it at that point in time. That meant commissioners, that meant people that worked for the city, whatever the case may be. And that still carries on to this day, which is sad, because he didn't deserve it. But at the same time, the same group, same commissioners, did nothing about a corrupt city manager, Evans, a questionable attorney, Brooks, and a thief for a fire chief that stole $17,000 from the city, was found guilty, and not a word, not a peep, nothing out of those people. So it's sad. It's just in vendetta. And these people are still buying into this stuff. They must be living in a different universe, because they've never done anything wrong in their life. This man deserves to get it back. I don't know why he wants it back, because the organization sucks.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion to pass this resolution?
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry, you haven't made one tonight, go right ahead.
All right, I'll make the motion to pass Resolution 2021-03.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
No.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-1.
Next is staff reports.
Item D, C moved down.
Oh,
into
okay.
D,
Sorry about that.
Seawall assessment.
Yep. Next is D, approval of scope of work for cardio to perform a seawall assessment for $33,000. Director Ahern.
Okay. Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As we talked about, the seawall assessment would be to get a full inventory, a complete inventory of all the city-owned seawalls. I know we discussed removing some portions based on further investigation. All the seawall out here, the 1,800 or so feet, it's not vinyl. It's still concrete panel. I believe that the cap may have been rehabbed, but based on just a glance, I don't believe that that seawall itself was refurbished at all. So seeing that, I felt like it was in the city's best interest to leave that in. And we talked about the Island Drive, similar idea. Just because it's vinyl, I don't necessarily think it's safe to assume that there's no defects and we can just assume that it's perfect. So to me, I felt like there was, more value in having a complete inventory than picking and choosing a few sections to remove. So I guess I'll just get any questions you guys might have.
Well, my question would be, why this was on the consent agenda without an explanation of that? Because we specifically talked about taking certain things out, and when I saw it on there, I thought that must have been an error. So your memo probably should have explained that.
So
so that I wouldn't be pulling it off the consent agenda.
I understand.
You know.
I'm not really sure when that determination of where they get placed on the agenda is. We just provide the information and.
Okay.
Have you spoken to any seawall companies about looking at our seawalls for us without us spending $33,000 to have cardio come in here and do this? Madeira Beach was founded in 1947. We're going on our 75th anniversary here shortly. And this has never been done before. And this is a small town, so I don't take spending the city's money lightly. And I know other commissioners disagree with me, but I think this is $33,000 we don't need to spend. I know in the past, seawall companies, when we thought we had a question, they've come out and evaluated it for us. Just as I said, when I had a question on my seawall companies came out, I had a couple of them come out and evaluate my seawall for me, but it wasn't something I had to pay for. It was something they did as a service, as a company. And I'm just wondering if we've looked at doing that rather than looking at an engineering firm coming out here and doing the evaluations and putting divers in the water and all that for all of our seawalls. I just think that's a lot of money to spend at a small town like Madeira Beach. I just don't think we have the money to spend to do that, personally.
So, yeah, I'll answer some of your questions. I think to the point of you saying that it has been done before, I think that just adds more, just shows the need of it. And it's more than just a spot assessment. It's going to be the baseline for the CIP for the next 10 years. So, it's more of a preventative maintenance, more so than a reactive maintenance. It'll save money for not having to repair it in an emergency fashion. You can budget for it, plan for it, know that, yeah, you might have 5 years left, but you can, develop a plan. So, I think it's worth the investment. I We had 50,000 budgeted for it this year that was approved, so, I mean, the money's technically there, so just my opinion on that.
Well, I just don't want to see the same thing happen to our seawalls that happened to our city hall. That no one ever put any money into it. It finally fell in such disrepair that we couldn't fix it. We had to build a new one because it was over 50% of the cost of the dwelling. But, so I think if it's budgeted, and which kind of tacitly approved it in that way, I don't think the price is that bad for the amount of seawalls that we have here. I don't want to see them collapse and us have to patch and, you know, run around and spend a lot of money on this stuff. I think having it as a baseline would be a pretty good idea. That's just my opinion. And now that I know that the recreation complex isn't as new as we thought, then for sure that needs to be looked at with all the stuff going on out here.
Jamie, I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, I'm done.
Out of curiosity, this is Greek to me, but what approximately, ballpark, and if you could, to replace all of these seawalls that we're talking about in this document, 5,625 feet of seawall? Any idea?
$250 to $300 a foot.
All right, so we'll say $275 a foot times how many again? 5,700? I turned my page. What, how many feet is?
5,625. $1,500,000.
Yep. Over 1.5 million.
I don't have any more questions. Anyone else?
I don't, but I think we should do it. So let's just find out.
Thank you, Director Agarn.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this?
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore. You know I'm here, I'm going to speak, right? You know, I came into this thinking that, you know, it's kind of crazy to spend that much money for a survey, but I listened to Jamie, which makes a lot of sense if it's $1.5 million for this whole thing. But if you actually have a baseline that you can go from here on out, and say that, okay, a year from now we have to budget this much, 2 years we have to budget for this much, 5 years we have to budget for this much. And this is some stuff that you're going to actually have to do because you have to have the seawalls. It's not like you can't, you know, push it aside and not do it. So, you know, I think it's in the budget. And like I say, I came in here thinking, yeah, nah. But, you know, I think it's probably a good idea for that baseline. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I doubt you have any electronic
Yes, sir.
on this. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the scope of work for Cardno to perform the seawall assessment for $33,000.
I'll second that.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
No.
The motion carried 4-1.
Next is staff reports. Hello, Jay.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Just kind of give you an update. This is going to be a different direction of the conversation than we had last time talking about special events. So we have had a few applications just for some smaller stuff that's going to be easily socially distanced. Easter at the church, and they're doing a drive-through and a few other smaller items. But the discussion of the carnival is really why I'm here again. We've gotten some feedback from the county. They are comfortable with us hosting an event if we are able to follow the rules that they've set forth. I did get a plan from the carnival itself as to how they're going to follow COVID-19 guidelines, and I have a meeting this Friday with the Rotary to establish what we essentially will be the basis of a beginning of what we're looking to do as far as the COVID regulations. It'll be, regulating number of people that are attending in and out. But after some discussions with them, the baseline for the county was 1,000. I'd be really hard pressed to assume that we'd have 1,000 at any point during the carnival. I mean, Doug, I know you'd experience it. It's definitely a rolling crowd throughout the day. And then we've got some ideas to put, some seated areas for eating and drinking, all that stuff, to make it safe and still allow for us to host an event of that kind. So I just, after our previous conversation, I didn't just want to go forth and do it without discussing it with you all and, blindsiding anybody if you had any questions. So, but just wanted to make sure that was still, well, now it's a different direction, but make sure that's okay with everyone. And again, if we can do this safely, then that helps us inch a little bit forward into doing other events, because I know King of the Beach is going to be slowly behind that carnival, so we're going to make sure that, we've got a way to keep people in and out of there properly and safely and everything else. So just wanted to give you guys that update and see if you had any questions.
You'll be speaking to John on this?
Sorry?
You'll be speaking to John?
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a bit in the last 48 hours once we
Okay.
heard from the county.
He contacted me yesterday and was asking me questions about it, and I said, I'll find out.
Yeah. Again, I just want to make sure that, we'll work our way up the ladder and get everybody's blessing, and if anybody has any issues or questions or concerns, we'll address them, and if we can't clear the hurdles, then we won't have it. But we just want to make sure we follow the process and, do this safely, so.
Fine with me,
Sounds good.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Next is reports and correspondence. City Commission have anything?
Our special meeting for the library board was canceled because they didn't get some of the quotes in that they wanted, but I just want to make sure I'm on the right track when I tell them in our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, that, there's no need to rush and spend that money.
Right, yeah, that's,
Okay, all right. I planned on it, but then I thought I better make sure that was something we all agreed on.
I just wanted to ask, in Rotary, I'm going to be doing the speakers for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to have someone there. Can I invite the commission to come to something like that?
So the answer is yes, you can. I'm sorry. I'll
No, go ahead.
Legally, the commissioners can go there, my suggestion is that, you not speak on any particular topic that is eventually going to come before the commission for action. If you need to do that, for example, I would suggest maybe one member of the commission go to the Rotary meeting. Then
Okay.
you don't have to worry about a violation of the Sunshine Law.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let them know then, and also you, Bob, that I'm going to have the former mayor, Travis Palladino, is going to be coming in. Of course, he's got his shop down in Johns Pass Village, and everyone is invited to come. I'll let them know that we might have extra people then, but I just thought they might really enjoy seeing him again.
Just for the record on that, there are 2 representatives from the Treasure Island Commission that attend, the mayor and commissioner. So, and they usually sit at different tables, and so nobody can say that they're talking business or anything. But it's the guest speakers there are usually very good, and the charities that they support, they do a lot of hard work, and so it's an hour-long meeting. It's kind of packed in with a lot of stuff. So, just if you all can attend, that'd be great.
That's going to be on the 23rd. So if anyone wants to come, it's on the 23rd.
Tell us where,
It'll be at Cambria.
where and when, or,
It'll be at the Cambria at 11:30 in the morning.
okay.
And of course, they have lunch. I do believe they charge, what, $20 for lunch now? I think
I believe so, but I'll work something out with them.
you'll work something out. Okay. Thank you.
Well, if you haven't eaten there, that's normally pretty good food over at the Cambria. No.
Which one is it, 11:30?
City Attorney, do you have anything for us?
Just one thing, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for the shade meeting at 5 o'clock. I think it was very helpful for the attorney to get some direction. I would remind you again, it's confidential what took place at that meeting, so it should not be discussed in public. All right, thank you.
City Manager?
Aside from our report, I just have a couple things I wanted to go over with you. We did have I attended a meeting today with Alex Ray, the city manager from St. Pete Beach, and Gary Blumberg from Treasure Island, and we discussed the scooter issue. And we kind of all feel the same way when it comes to the scooter and the regulations, and you know, we looked at the state statute. Actually, Alex had one of his staff members attend, and Michelle Gonzalez, and she is, you know, already was doing the research on the ordinance that's in place in St. Petersburg. So I think we kind of came away with the idea it would probably behoove us and help the tourists and the residents if we all had similar ordinances. So, you know, if somebody drives one of these scooters and brings it into Madeira Beach, they're going to have to follow the same rules and regulations. And they kind of were looking at a license agreement or a franchise agreement for one vendor, so we're only dealing with maybe one company, and deal with it with representatives from the staffs of the three cities to, you know, kind of go through proposals and stuff. So we're still working on it. Actually, when I came back, Andrew Morris from our planning section with Linda, he already had an ordinance modified, putting in the items that we had talked about at our workshop meeting and taking the ordinance from St. Petersburg. So he has since sent that down to Michelle in St. Pete Beach to hopefully get adopted or modified, at least from that point, instead of going from scratch. So hopefully the thought process is they want to move this along quite quickly, and you know, so we have spring break and the season and everything, so hopefully we can kind of nip some of our problems in the bud. So I'll update you all when we have our next meeting on where we're at with that. And of course, whatever we do, I'll be sending to Tom, you know, to take a look at as well. So, also, while we were there, we talked about the motorized bicycle issue on the beach, and they're also willing to prohibit any bicycle usage on the beach. So we don't have a problem under the state statute. It doesn't delineate anymore the difference between a motorized bicycle or a regular bicycle. So until we can get the state to look at that and address it through legislation and separating the differences, we would have to prohibit all bicycles from being on the beach. And the problem with it is the motorized ones can do 25 miles an hour, and on a loaded beach, we might have a hazard. And that's kind of what we're looking at. So it's more or less a safety issue. So I'll be working with Tom and the other managers in reference to an ordinance change in reference to that. Just updates, Causeway Park renaming. Megan's been working hard on that. Basically, we're going to have a contest that'll run from March 1st to April the 2nd, and then we'll have the results of that contest available for you all to go through and pick the names that you want to do. And we're opening up to the school, but also to the residents as well. So that'll be on our website. All I have to do is go on the website, fill out the form, and it'll be entered. So that'll basically give everybody a month to, give their feedback. I've already talked to Jamie about a sign we'll be having one similar in nature to the one that we're going to be putting at Tom and Kitty Stewart Park. So it's kind of rustic looking, but, you know, it'll fit the particular park. So whatever we name it, we already know it'll probably take us about 3 weeks to get a sign made up and we get it posted and do maybe a rededication. So that's going to be moving right along. And then also on a good note, of course, Andrew didn't tell me that we got some of this money in, but we actually got $88,170.50 that came in through, I'm just picking on them, I'm just teasing, I wasn't serious, on a grant that Megan Powers actually worked on and on the CARES Act funding. So it was, you know, reimbursement for some of those costs that we had for sanitizing and also some of the supplies that we got. And so I just wanted to let you know some of that money is now starting to come in. And we still have a couple other grants that are similar in regard that we haven't gotten our reimbursements back for, but at least that's a good sign. It's $88,000 we didn't have. We put it towards the lot fund or whatever. But
Very good.
and I think that's all I had to go over with you all.
Okay.
Oh, one other thing. While I had the other managers there, we talked about parking fees, and I know we already made a decision not to do anything, but the latest up to date, and their Treasure Island is at $2.75. We're at $2.50. Treasure Island is going to probably be moving closer to where St. Pete Beach is in the next budget cycle. And St. Pete Beach is at $3.25. So just to give you all some type of idea, and we can address that through our budget process. If you all want to do something later on down the road, that's fine. You know, as I said, if we're going to do anything, I'd prefer to do the beach side than the village, but, you know, that'll be stuff we can discuss as we go through the budget process.
I have just a question, because I think you're about to adjourn, right?
No, I had a couple things to
Oh, go
mention
ahead,
about-
you go ahead then.
Ladies first.
Oh, I just have a question on the manager's report. Under the monthly totals, on page 148, it said, so we have the building department totals of how many permits were issued, and my goodness, there's a 238 completed inspections, so I know Frank's super busy. But then we have on code compliance, and then below that is Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
What's the difference between those two code compliances?
Well, we have primarily Holden works out of the building department side, so he's more involved with like the stop work orders if somebody's doing construction without a permit, you know, the health safety issues that Frank was involved with. So, you know, and it's not etched in stone, but that's kind of primarily the way that it's been funneled. And then the deputies do code enforcement along with their community policing. And we've been working at improving the reporting. You know, we've had some deficiencies with the case preparation, so we're trying to get everybody up to snuff with it.
Well, wait a minute, we have a dedicated community policing code enforcement person, right?
That's correct.
And they did no code compliance cases opened and none were resolved in a month? I mean, that doesn't...
I'll have to check on that to tell you the truth. I missed that.
So Holden is one of our own employees,
Yes.
a civilian? Okay. And he does it for code compliance, is more like on the building side.
Right.
So all the complaints that come in about all the things happening around here with neighbors doing something wrong or rentals and all that stuff, please check into that, because if that's a zero and a zero, then we may want to rethink how we're paying the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
Right. I think the number is incorrect because I actually went through all their files on that one particular case that we dealt with the
that was old.
Vacation rental that was going on.
Yeah.
And I actually saw the case numbers that were pulled. They're in the sheriff's office computer system, but they were hitting that quite regularly on almost every 2 or 3 days. for a period of about 2 or 3 months. So, I know that's got to be a little bit off, but I'm going to verify it, and I'll let you know when we have our next meeting.
Okay, but that's been open for a while, so that wouldn't be a January number.
No, but they maybe the actual code complaint maybe isn't, but they've been going by and checking, and if they go out and walk around to make sure that the house is unoccupied, they're pulling a case number just so we can document the fact that they were there. Yeah. I'm not talking about the times that they just drove by to see if there was any activity, but the ones that they actually did something, they have been documenting as part of their procedures and in a report. But that might not necessarily count as a new complaint for us too. So
yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, let me verify it and I'll get back with you.
Okay. What I wanted to mention was on the e-bikes and e-scooters and the bicycles on the beach, that might be something to get on the Big C's agenda so that all the communities are talking. And maybe we can do something similar to what we're doing with the interlocal agreement.
Right. We talked about that. I thought the thought process was, let's come up with a workable ordinance and then take it to the rest of the cities, because a lot of them aren't as involved with the scooters as we are between the 3 southern cities on the coast. But that was kind of the feedback I got from the other managers is, that's great, but let's make sure we've got a workable solution first, and then we can take it. It's going to be a lot easier for them to adopt something that we've already come up with, realizing that some of it are the elected officials that we're going to be dealing with, and they don't have managers and so forth to deal with it. So kind of help them out more.
Yeah, and the other was just continuing on from Commissioner Price, and I agree, we can have all the ordinances in the world, but if we're not enforcing them, then they don't mean anything. And I've actually had residents saying that very thing to me lately on short-term rentals. They go by and see someone in there, and so they'll get a fine for $100, but the people are in there for 10 days, and they've made $300 a day. So if they're only getting one fine on a $3,000 stay, that's just kind of the cost of doing business for them. So I don't know why we're not pushing that stronger. There's no sense in making more ordinances if we're not going to have the enforcement.
Well, there's 3 cases I know of that they're actively pursuing in reference to.
Okay, but yeah, same on littering and everything, and I know that's a tough one, but I was contacted just today about people sitting in cars just throwing trash out the windows down at John's Pass parking lot. And I know they can't be everywhere, and they've got to see it happen, but something we may need to maybe push a little harder on.
Okay.
That's all. City Clerk, have you got anything for us?
The Florida League of Cities will be hosting another virtual annual ethics training on February the 24th at 10 a.m. The elected officials are required to take this annually, and it meets that requirement. And the city manager is looking to close down City Hall at that time and try to get all the employees he can to attend that, because all public officers and employees are responsible for knowing the public records law and ethics. And so he wants to make sure that everybody attends that, and the only way to do it is to close City Hall on that day, just for during that time. You want to make any comment on that, Bob?
No, I just think it's important, to stress, the ethics part of it and the regulations that we have to deal with. And, we always, I always stress to get the department heads at the training, and, obviously the commission, you all are required to attend it on an annual basis. But I think this time, we knock on wood, we've been doing good with our employees. We haven't had any issues, but some of this could directly affect them. So I want to make sure that they have the training. And again, they can't say that they haven't been warned.
Well, we just had that. Are you going to set it up over here like we did the last time?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in. I'd just soon get it knocked out for this year.
Yep.
I think they're doing it earlier this year, and it was later last year because of COVID, so it seems like we just did it, but it's really another year or so.
And that's, could...
24th, that's when we have our workshop that day.
24th of
Okay.
February, the last one was in October.
Is that something, Mr. Hudson could attend?
He's
To
already
go ahead?
registered for it.
Okay, good. Okay.
And you do have the option of doing it online if it's more convenient for you, but, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, we have it set up similar to what we did before with the employees that were in attendance, but I'm making it more mandatory for those that are actually working, so they can get that education.
Okay, thank you.
And also, even though Mr. Hudson is already registered for the class to take it online, he is also welcome to have it with us that day. Okay?
Okay. Is that it?
That's all I got.
Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned at 9:05 PM.